next to him. The replay. Pavia throws. Touchdown, Vanderbilt.
This is 365 Sports, powered by SicEm365.com.
Handoff inside. Russell. No, on the outside. Touchdown. Singleton keeps it and scores. Malachi Singleton off the bench has put Arkansas in front from 11 yards.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Kings threatening to make it a one-possession game. Ward, a lot of room. He's going to run it. Cam Ward, open area. Touchdown, Miami. 24 yards on the run.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Moss to the end zone, intercepted. Coy Parrish. And the Gophers beat USC 9 seconds away from doing that for the first time since 1955.
365 Sports is turbocharged by Unite Private Networks. Find out more at uniteprivatenetworks.com.
Le'Veon Moss, and A&M just keeps rolling. Look at big Le'Veon Moss. He's going to house it to open up the second half. The Aggies can do no wrong today.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
And here we go on this Tuesday, and yet as we churn into the month of October, what a great weekend coming up with college football. Some bangers, we'll get to that. Also, those games in the Big 12. We'll have a Big 12 pod, the North pod, today coming up at just before 4 o'clock. Willie Fritz, Houston football coach, will join us in about a half an hour. Ricky Thompson, Baylor Radio. We'll also have Pat Smith on the SEC. Ross Dellinger, Yahoo Sports, on what is always something that he's writing about when it comes to college football. John McClain, Craig's off the radar, and also Paul Catalina's top 5. Here are the bangers. What do you have to be able to do to be a part of the bangers? And there's one game on here that I allowed to stay on here, even though it needs to be 2 ranked teams. You have 2:30 Texas and Oklahoma. You have Penn State, USC. You have Ohio State, Oregon, and then Ole Miss and 13th ranked LSU. Bangers.
Is that the game you allowed to stay on there?
No, it was Penn State because USC's not ranked.
Yeah.
You have to be ranked, and I think I may have put this together even like Saturday to get ready to make sure I didn't forget about it. But that's still kind of a banger of a game, and obviously USC in need of a win after another one this past weekend to Minnesota. Ranked teams. If you're 20 and 22 and playing each other, bangers. Texas, OU, but the highlighted game in that one is huge. Ohio State, Oregon. So Craig Smoak, of those 4, I know one. Click, it's yours. But which of those other 3 to you, in your opinion, are more intriguing?
Well, it's easily number 2 versus number 3. I don't think.
Well, it doesn't have to be. I mean, I'm just asking.
I don't know how it wouldn't be for most people unless you're a fan of the other 4 teams somehow or another. But, yeah, give me 2 versus 3 versus 4 versus unranked and, 9 versus 13, which you can debate how high those teams should actually be and whether there's some SEC soothing going on right there. But, yeah, take apart the rankings themselves. Texas, Oklahoma is always going to be my number 1. But Ohio State, Oregon, from the standpoint of it being the first Big Ten matchup between these two, being a big game in that race, and maybe a future rematch of that conference title game, or a future look into the conference title game, depending on how the rest of the season goes. That one, to me, is the one that's got the most juice behind it and the most potential to matter even more in the long run. So, yeah, Ohio State, Oregon, to me, is clearly game 1B behind Red River. But, Penn State, USC should be entertaining, and Ole Miss LSU ought to be a heck of a game as well. So don't think there's really a wrong answer necessarily. But, yeah, give me 2-3 all day long.
Yeah, I look forward to that one, yeah.
Yeah, I think that one's going to be great. Penn State and USC, while USC is not ranked, it's still very important to both teams, especially USC, who finds themselves after being look, Lincoln Riley did something well. Now all of a sudden they can't score points, and his offense has been figured out. While the defense is playing well still and good enough for them to win these games, they keep getting beat. I mean, losing to Minnesota was something I know that nobody in Southern California thought was going to happen. So this one's super important for them.
3-2, 1-2 in the conference, and in a free fall, like a lot of teams that thought this would be a special year. Also, this is a story. Well, here are the games to let you know again in the Big 12 coming up. Among the best, including another Friday game, Utah and Arizona State in Tempe. That is a game on ESPN. Saturday, games at 2:30, 3-7, and also late night games. You have Cincinnati at UCF, Arizona at BYU, and then Iowa State, West Virginia, and Morgantown. Kansas State at Colorado in Boulder against Dion and the Buffaloes.
Yeah, This is interesting slate here, too, that Kansas State-Colorado game. This is another one where, Colorado's, been moving along here the last few games for them. Kansas State's going to come in and have a style that, I would think is not what they do best at Colorado, but I was wrong about that with UCF. So this is the first game that I'm going to watch Colorado with completely maybe open eyes about who they are now going in, as opposed to any preconceived notions, because clearly they've changed some things up if they can stop the run all of a sudden, which they did against UCF.
We got a defensive stat, Craig, here in a moment about and where Colorado is in this list that otherwise you maybe 2 weeks ago would not have thought possible. We'll get to that in a minute.
So, somebody who covers the Big 12 and follows it pretty closely. I mean, I find all these games interesting for various reasons. But certainly got, 4 ranked teams out there trying to defend that ranking, or if not, get a little bit higher. I think Utah, on the road on a Friday night with will Cam Rising play, will he not play, that stupid, tired storyline, that in play does make it a little bit more of a wild card. If he does, though, that's notable. If he doesn't, it's notable. It's just, again, the second straight year where that's like the predominant storyline with Utah football, but they need a win, and Kenny Dillingham and company, I'm sure, are going to be super fired up. I don't know how great the crowd will be, but that's, just interesting. Friday night on the road against a competitive team. Then, since the UCF, I mean, that's probably the least spotlighted game because it's the only non-ranked game whatsoever, but both teams could really use this win and position themselves a little higher in the hierarchy of the Big 12. I think UCF especially is kind of smarting right now. So being at home, I mean, will this game even get played? That I don't even know. Like, what do they have alternative plans for the Hurricane? Because it's kind of hard to picture how this is going to, not be affected in some way. But if it's not, then, that's a game for UCF to certainly try and get back on track. Arizona, BYU. Arizona's so up and down, but any game against BYU now, whoever it is going to be interesting because they're on top of the hill. So everybody's trying to knock them down or bring them back down to everybody else's level since they've got off to that hot start. And I know there's Iowa State and Texas Tech and so on, but that goes for all those teams that you want to see them get beat and shake up these rankings a little bit. West Virginia at home in Morgantown against Iowa State, that's interesting. And then I think that the best game, is certainly the nightcap, K-State and Colorado. That's one I'm very much looking forward to. If it was in Manhattan, I'd still be interested, but the fact it's in Boulder makes me way more interested, just that the K-State's got to contend with some kind of a home field advantage potentially. So I'd take them straight up or at home, but in Boulder, I don't know, that makes it a little bit more intriguing to me. So, that's going to be really interesting, and can't wait to see Shador against that K-State defense and then Avery Johnson and kind of the back and forth there. That's going to be fun.
I tell you this, these late Saturday night games, which are great because it's pretty much one of the only games going on, including last week with Tech and Arizona, is squeezing my sleep time, but because it's hard to go to bed when there's a damn competitive game on, and especially when teams that we cover within the Big 12. So this is a story, and we mentioned yesterday about the House versus NCAA settlement, at least the first big hurdle. Not that all of them aren't big, but the first big hurdle with Judge Wilkin giving her basically okay for them to move on with many things that still need to be ironed out. And she is not afraid to tell either side, no, go back and do this again. But she did that, and they did it, and they've moved on. So while this is going on, which is probably what in the end is going to end up being what basically runs college football, with the money being paid back, the money moving forward, the revenue, et cetera, there continues to be these thoughts of and ideas of what else can college football do. I don't think this has a chance in hell. I don't think any of the leagues, the super leagues, have a chance. I wish it was possible, but I don't. But the latest one is a group of investors and ex-Disney executives, and Ross Dellinger will join us today at 5:10, met with ADs at 30 power schools with a pitch of a $9 billion infusion as part of a 70-school football league. Looming over SEC and Big Ten meetings is Project Bully. They're going to meet this Thursday, the SEC and Big Ten. The claim is everybody will be saved. Now, Paul, before you respond, and Craig, Paul sent a quote in the article from a high-level SEC school administrator. The smash capital, which is what he's talking about, is brilliant. The idea is brilliant, but you've got to convince those two guys, which is the Big Ten and the SEC commissioner, and I don't see them budging. I don't, even with the money involved, but at least somebody's trying to find an alternative plan.
I think this one is the best plan that we've seen because it hits all the things that the big boys would want, and it keeps the Power Four together and then sets us on a path of where I think things are going anyway. You've already heard the G5 coming up with their own playoff. I think that is the most realistic option because there's not just an endless flow of money that you can give to 200 college football teams. You just can't. So if the big money maker is going to stay the big money makers and do that, then let's create tiers of this that make sense. And for the fans, I don't think anybody wants to see a league that's just the Big Ten and SEC. So if we can do this 70-team league that makes more sense, that has better scheduling and all those different things, yes. I think the things that make this thing work are, one, $9 billion in capital. That's where it gets people to the table. Where Greg Sankey and Tony Petitti aren't going to want it is one media rights deal shared among everybody. The tiering off of that means that, yeah, the haves will continue to have, but if they don't have a good year, they won't make as much money. And then that means he's got to go to, they each have to go to half their teams and be like, some years you're going to make $60 million. Some years you're going to make $140, but it just depends on how good you are and all of this and blah, blah, blah. But I think it's very telling, the state of college football, that you have a lot of people that are in favor of something like this, but two people ultimately make the decision, and that's Greg Sankey and Tony Petitti. And Greg Sankey, every single move he makes tells you he does not give a flip about anybody else with the SEC.
Yeah, I'll give them some of the power. The networks have more say than anybody, though. Yeah. I feel like the networks are the ones that are driving this as much as anybody. I know that Snakey walks on water for some people Southeast, and then Petitti's just a big figure who kind of stays in the background more so, but they're not doing anything without TV. You want to say it's split into fours. That's perfectly fine to say, but to your point, yeah, like if they don't sign off on it, those two leagues, then it's not happening. And so same thing as even if they were on board, but the TV networks don't want to do it, it's not happening. So you got to have everybody. But from the college personnel side of things, like we know TV is going to sign off on it because there's no way they're not part of these discussions to begin with. And we know what they want, which is the best football games possible. That's what everything's getting geared towards. Why add another SEC conference game? More money, more TV money, bigger matchup. Why add Oklahoma, Texas to the SEC? More money, bigger TV, like that. Everything's being driven by TV. So here's another idea where TV would get its cake and eat it too, thanks to private equity. Now, would Sankey and Petitti be on board with that? Yeah, I don't know about that, because why not just pivot and do something similar just all by themselves? Why include 40 other teams or 30 other teams when they don't need to, potentially? Like, that's the thing about kind of having a proposal out there like this, is what prevents somebody from going, that's interesting, I think I'll take part of that, and go twist that and go put it in front of ESPN and say, hey, what do you think of this idea? So I'm sure there will be many coming up with alternatives, but on the surface of it, like, it's great if you're a power school fan of the Power Four. Like, if your team fits within that right now, then you'd presumably be safe under this very unofficial and maybe won't even happen idea. I don't know what it means for the Pac, because it says 70 schools. If you do the math, it comes out to like 68 through the Power Four. And then there's obviously more than 2 teams now in the Pac, and they're not included in this write-up that I saw, at least. So I don't know what that means for them. But regardless, it's an interesting idea. There's a lot of like big ideas holding weight, like the private equity piece. There's a lot of people who don't seem to be all that certain about this, and a lot of questions about whether or not the biggest of the bigwigs would sign off on it. So I don't know how realistic it is, but it's very clear that everybody's circling, trying to come up with an alternative to what we actually have. And what we actually have looks like it's an endangered species at this point, because there's some trimming going on. There's a lot of trimming going on, and it's all about bigger games, bigger money, bigger TV ratings. We had somebody ask last week, why do TV ratings matter? Well, this is where some of the conversation happens. So if you're a fan of college football for the TV product and it being as streamlined and sleek as possible, you only watch the biggest games. You don't care about some random Big 12 matchup, then this is probably up your alley. But if you're somebody who cares about it beyond the mega matchups or just the power versus power schools all the time, then this is the worst idea you've heard in a really long time. So I guess it just depends on what side of the aisle you're on. But, I don't know how realistic it is to begin with. It's interesting, though.
I just can't see it working, and that's not me being negative about it. Because of where we are right now. Okay, a couple of notes on this. Expanding the playoffs and pitting blue blood powers more often against one another and eliminating all games. Arrange more games between power conferences, eliminating all games against group of 5 and FCS opponents. And in other words, it means that your records may be different, which is maybe going to be the case anyway. Here's what teams get in return. Paul, you kind of mentioned that.
What it means, there's no FCS football at all.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. They would all, and then that right there might eliminate the SEC, because they like to tuck that one game at the end of the year against UT Chattanooga and others. Not that others don't play games like that, but mostly in September. Tier 1, 16 teams. Earn per school. Revenue projections of $130 million in year 4, escalating to $250 million in year 12. Tier 2 would be 22 schools between $60 and $110 million, similar to what the SEC and Big Ten are currently going to get. And then Tier 3, the remaining 32 schools earning projections of $30 to $60 million, similar to what the Big 12 and also the ACC rates might be. Now, Bob Thompson, our Bob Thompson, put this up. He said he read as much of this as he could. Not surprisingly that these plans are hitting the street now. College sports are seen in peril by smart money people. They smell opportunity. I'll leave it at that until I see the actual proposal. I still think 70 is too big, but this quote is telling. The quote was, an upfront infusion of $5.3 billion in private capital borrowed from future media revenues, which again is what these private capital companies do, would provide schools immediate cash during a 3-year transition period, helping them buy out non-power opponents, supplementing their annual TV distribution.
Yeah, so that's why I think this one has more possibility than the other ones, because we've got actual dollar figures and all of that in it. But outside of that, you get to these things where, all right, well, Greg Sankey's already said he doesn't want to do anything like this. And it said everybody would be drafting off the SEC, which is always comes back to my question about Greg Sankey and Tony Petitti, in that, do they have the greater good of college sports at heart? Because if you did, you'd maybe want to have these other conferences in. After that, do we really want just what is the SEC and the Big Ten? I don't know. Or do we want a Super League? I don't think that we really do, but TV and Greg Sankey and Tony Petitti are going to make that decision more than anybody else will. Another thing that, like I said, bothers me, but yeah, you have that money up front. It could allow, runway for this. So this sounds like, because the people doing this are the ones who kind of understand it the most. Jack Swarbrick's a part of it, so he knows how to speak the conference commissioner language. But outside of all that, I still just don't think it's happening because the Big Ten and SEC, it's not good enough for them.
Well, I mean, as best we can tell, we don't know. I mean, it's just that it sounds like it's probably not for them because they don't really need to worry about everybody else. Or have they shown any inclination they care about anybody else? Well, at least Sankey in particular. You were mentioning the tiers. Like, that should be also mentioned with the fact that relegation would be a part of this. Like, that's the whole – how the tiers would line up with how you get paid out. But it also says there would be a group of, like, 6 schools that would just remain at the top regardless.
Yeah.
And it's like Texas, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Alabama, and like 2 other schools would just automatically be top tier no matter what at all times because they're the 6 of the biggest brands. And it doesn't even include like Oklahoma or even teams that you would think would be certainly top 8. But that was interesting that you're basically like greasing their palms to get them to play, right? Is get the biggest brands on board by saying, hey, you're automatically in the elite no matter what ever happens to you. And so you'd get all the 6 biggest brands based on their metrics, under this umbrella of this concept. And therefore you'd think everybody else would probably follow suit to follow the biggest brands. But yeah, there's a relegation part to this, which is just like reminding me of all these old Bill Connolly articles from years ago about, trying to add relegation to college football, which, I know soccer fans, it's a really cool idea for Premier League and Champions League. There's a lot of great concepts, and it's all very interesting. I know there's a lot of similarities. You can draw lines between college football and soccer in Europe and overseas, but, I don't know. I don't know about that part, the relegation part. It just seems like it'd be hard to account for the ability to plan ahead very much. Unless I suppose you're getting all this money up front and then you're basically under a bubble. It's just you're bouncing around within that bubble to some different extent. That would make it easier than just the relegation on the surface of what it is now. Like, that would be impossible. Mm-hmm. You get dropped down and like, no, really, come play here. We promise if we get you and these other guys, we'll win enough games to get bumped back up to play that. I don't see how that would ever work under that idea. But under this idea, you're still under the umbrella technically. All the money's already there, so you're not like losing out on that. So there would be a way to spin that. Relegation a part of this. The
relegation, though, from what I read, is only financial in nature and not like you're not dropping out to where you're going to be.
You're not going to drop where Boise State comes in or Memphis.
Yeah, it's not.
I'm saying I've never liked the idea of relegation in college football because it doesn't make any sense. Because if you drop down like you do in soccer, then it's impossible to get back. Basically, I would think for most teams. But yes, in this, the relegation is mentioned, but it's more of the financial, as you said. It's not like Baylor didn't win enough games, so now they're in the whatever tier, and they've got to win this many to get back in. Because you would never be able to recruit that way. That wouldn't be a part of this, which I do like, and I like the fact that any relegation would be financially. So everybody's still involved no matter what your win-loss is. You just don't make as much money, which I think is fair on the surface and could make that idea make some sense. It sounds, though, like a lot of good ideas and maybe not so good ideas that would be nicely cherry-picked and then maybe added to a different proposal down the line as we continue to kind of like curate the perfect solution ultimately that everybody ends up on the same place. Because this, to me, sounds like it's got some legs, but it doesn't sound like it's got enough to actually be the answer to all problems.
We will have Willie Fritz, Houston coach, in about 7 minutes, but it's something to chew on. I haven't really spent much time on it over the last few weeks because I wanted to see whether or not this House versus NCAA thing would at least move into gear number 2. It's done that, which it might now be down the road, and it's got on fire. One quick note from Brandon Marcello on all of this. I believe these concepts, Project Rudy and the G5 playoff Super League idea, will only inform the commissioners, ADs, and presidents so that they can go off and do it themselves without the need for private equity to take a piece of the pie. One thing about private equity, they can push money out now, but eventually the revenue you produce will have to go back to them in some ways in certain percentages to pay for their upfront cash. Now, a couple of awards to get to. Ashton Gente, we know what kind of a great run. I'm sorry, let's go to the Campbell Award first. Ashton Gente, according to theathletic.com with a story on this from earlier today, the Heisman odds for him have gone up. There's Travis Hunter. There's Cam Ward. Jalen Milroe still in that mix. And so you wonder, Milroe's still in the mix because of maybe Georgia, but obviously not all that spectacular with what he did in the loss against Vanderbilt. So there are the latest odds that have bumped up. And Gente now, the kid from Boise State having a spectacular year, Barry Sanders too, so to speak, he now is in that mix at the top. But that is wide open, much more time to see what happens.
Yeah, I don't have a Heisman vote, you do. But to me, at this point in the season, it's a two-man race. Or three. I guess I'd throw Cam Ward in there right now. But those are my three right now is
that's going to
Hunter,
change.
Ward, and Gente.
But that will change with this weekend's game and then the next weekend's game. And so
I mean, maybe not.
Well, what if why not?
I mean, why would it have to change?
I said it could change with this weekend's games because you have Quinn Ewers back in the mix. He hadn't played in a while. As other guys that can join that list.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, like, it could very well be that again, though. Like, it might change. It very well has the potential to, but it might not. It might be those three guys. They might be the clear best this weekend and every weekend after. We'll see. There'll be others that certainly contend for it, but if those are the three at the end of the year, I wouldn't be surprised by that.
Now, the Earl Campbell Tyler Rose Award. Kevin Jennings, the quarterback at SMU, after their really nice win against top 25 Louisville, put on a show. He's joined this show. In fact, last week, we sparked him to the performance he had to beat Louisville, 22nd ranked Louisville, and SMU continues to be on a heater.
Yeah, they do. I think it's just, I gave him he wanted to perform well in front of me, and then that he did, and then I confirmed it to him. He's just inspired by me. One, ruining my day, and then backing it up so he ruins other people's days.
Maybe you should go talk to the Warpath Collective or whatever the hell their version of it is and try to extend an offer to Kevin Jennings, get a real quarterback in there.
Got eligibility left.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Look, hey, if the Battle's End would return my calls.
Yeah. Battle's End. There you go.
Yeah.
One other note, Georgia with more trouble. Another player struggles. Colby Young arrested earlier today by Athens Clark County Police, a misdemeanor charge of battery and assault of an unborn child. If you read the police report, he and his girlfriend had met late Saturday night to discuss their relationship. It turned heated. She felt like he was on the phone with another girl. That then became an issue. And then as she tried to leave, according to the police report, he grabbed her, eventually started to pull at her abdomen, like squeeze her abdomen, and there you have the assault, battery and assault on an unborn child. She's pregnant. So he has been arrested. Not sure what happens from this point on, but the police report is pretty detailed on what Colby Young is allegedly to have done.
Well, if that's actually what happened, then I hope he gets his just due and finds himself inside of a cell for a while and is kicked off the Georgia football team. If it's not true, then I hope, whatever extent of the allegations were false are thrown back the other direction to the extent that they may. I mean, who's to know other than those people involved? So I hope just the truth, whatever that may be, allegations aside, is how this properly gets, punished or dealt with. But yeah, it's an ugly allegation, and I don't know, it's weird. I feel like we don't hear are college guys just not ever getting in trouble anywhere but Georgia nowadays, basically? Because I feel like we used to hear about stuff all the time, and we don't hear about anything anymore unless it's like Georgia football or the occasional thing maybe here and there. But I mean, guys getting arrested for pot and all sorts of stuff, like you hardly ever hear about any of that. Maybe it's just the laws have changed so it doesn't affect as many guys or whatever. But when we do hear about legal matters, it's always Georgia now. I mean, 99% of the time
when
it's
you
Georgia.
go 46-3 and then you win national titles and you're at the top of the food chain, then yes, even though if this happened at another school, I won't mention one because that wouldn't be fair, it would still be in the news. But when you are at the top of the food chain and you have things happen, then that spotlight's on you even. And these are some pretty bad things. We know about the wreck. The injury, the police report, by the way, and Craig was mentioning this as far as if this occurred, the evidence that they have from pictures of her abdomen and the parts of her body where they say they do find bruises and other markings as well. So that remains to be seen to see what happens with him. But you're right. I think, though, if they were I'm not going to mention a team. Just a mid-level team or worse, it would still be a story, but it seems like Georgia right now is in that run. There's some other schools that have had great success. There seems to be a problem.
Well, I'm sorry for the player involved, even if he did it, that all of us college football fans just want them to lose so bad that we're making them commit crimes and be alleged to have done things.
Yeah,
it's all the outside's fault. We all just are envious of Kirby Smart and his dynasty. That's what I've been told by actual media people have tried to spin that. Oh, it's just people only care because they're jealous of Georgia football.
That's bullshit.
Oh no, it totally is.
That's not.
It totally is.
Like somebody woke up and told him, "Hey, Colby, we don't like you. Go do."
No, it
something
wasn't this particular story. It was during all the drunken driving stuff, and it was like, "Oh, well, people only care because you're rivals of Georgia." And I was like, "Man, that is total BS." But nevertheless, I'm not surprised given where I saw that, and I'm sure this will be treated much the same way until, it'll just be treated that way until something actually so messed up happens that you have no choice but to change your stance on it. But hopefully that all works itself out and the right parties are dealt with accordingly.
We are joined by the head football coach at the University of Houston, coming off their win at TCU in Fort Worth, Willie Fritz, good friend of the show. We've had Willie on when he was hired, also at Big 12 Media Days and other times, even when he was at Tulane. Look at that big smile on your face, man. Winning the game winning the game will do that to you, won't it?
Oh, it will. We'd had a couple tough ball games, and the kids really responded well, played well offensively. We've been struggling a little bit on that side of the ball, and defensively played well also. So it was a good win to send us into a bye week.
It's got that bye-week rasp in your voice, too. I can hear it.
I was yelling a little bit this morning. We practice in the mornings, and, I usually have I'm able to project my voice, but we did not have that working this morning, so I had to do the old-fashioned yelling, so I'm a little hoarse.
Well, Coach, you made the decision to change quarterbacks, which is one of the most difficult things that you can do at any time when it's not about an injury. When you just have to change, and it's probably for any position difficult, but especially the quarterback, because that's the leader of the offense. That's the guy that everybody's looking to. And Zion Chris stepped up really, really well for you. How gut-wrenching is that decision when you have to make it, because you have guys that are working hard and it's just not going their way?
Well, it's tough, especially when you're dealing with really good young men. And, the quarterback position, we have that all the way across the board. But we wanted to, we kind of done some things with Donovan, and he'd done some good things. And like I've said many times before, the quarterback gets too much credit when things go well, and gets too much blame when things don't go well. But early in the ball game, Friday night, I thought everybody was doing their 111th. We weren't playing perfect, but we played well. I thought Coach Barbay did a good job of calling the game, especially early, to get Zion in rhythm. And he threw the ball very accurately Friday night. And he also had a couple of huge runs, had a big 71-yard touchdown run right before halftime. And then, he started cramping up in the fourth quarter. And, we put Donovan in, and he jumped in there and led us on a 7.5-minute drive to kick a field goal and really put the game out of reach. So he was ready when his number was called. So that's what you want to see out of your guys, all of them, not just the quarterbacks.
Yeah, I thought that was very cool, the way that ended up working out, where both guys had such a big impact. That was really neat, and had to feel good, I would think, for the entire team and program as well. One thing that's been very consistent for you guys this year is your defense. When did you have kind of an idea that you could be pretty good defensively? Why do you think you've been so good defensively?
We got some depth. We're able to roll some guys on the front. Keith Cooper is playing extremely well as a defensive end. Anthony Holmes inside. Carlos Allen. We probably play, I'm looking at my depth chart right up here in front. We play about 10 guys on the defensive line. And we've had a few injuries, and that hasn't, really hurt us too much because of the depth that we have. And then linebackers, Michael Batten, number 44 for us, really playing well. Seems to be getting better every week. We're able to play 3-4 guys in linebacker position, and then we're playing 6-7 guys on the back end and secondary. AJ Halsey was Big 12 Player of the Week. I think he got some national recognition defensively as well. And he had 2 big interceptions for us, and I think 7 tackles as well. So, we just are able to rotate some guys, and we got some talent over there as well.
Even in a game that you didn't win, one thing I noticed is you ran the ball. You're running the ball well. Not only is your defense making plays, but you guys are putting up some numbers in the run game too.
Well, we weren't running the ball very well at the beginning of the season, and we really made a concerted effort to make sure that part of the game improved. I just think it opens up everything offensively for you when you run the ball effectively. And we've done that a little bit the last couple of weeks, not nearly as well as we'd like to. We still got to improve in that area, but if you get bodies on bodies and you get some creases, and you got good backs, and I think we got good backs. Stacy Snead, Rayshon Sanford, we got a big freshman back, Jamarian Burnett. Those guys are good backs, and if we get bodies on bodies, they got a chance to make people miss or run through arm tackles, and they did some of that last Friday night, and then also the quarterback run. When you get the quarterback running, it gets you the ability to play 11-on-11 football, and both Zion and Donovan are very good runners.
Willie Fritz, Houston football coach, with us on 365 Sports. You mentioned, and Paul brought up the fact you made that change, and then you mentioned what Donovan did. For that to happen when he's lost his job, your kicker comes back after not being able to keep what he was doing. He comes back, kicks 3 field goals for you. What is that like for everybody else, knowing that if you're given the chance, even if maybe you're in a slump, you have a chance to help this football team?
Well, it's a great lesson to learn. I just, they asked me after the game about Donovan, why he was successful. It was because he handled it the right way. He didn't act like a baby or pout about it. He was a very loyal teammate. He's a great young man. And, when his number was called, he was ready to go. And same thing with Jack Martin, our kicker. He kind of struggled a little bit, and Joseph Kim kind of beat him out for that spot. And Joseph struggled, and Jack got the opportunity, and he cashed it in with 3 for 3 on field goals, and very happy that he was able to come back as well and did a good job with his kickoffs. But that's what you hope guys do. I always tell everybody, you're going to get another opportunity at some point in time. The question is, are you going to be ready when it comes?
Coach, culture is big, and you can't, sometimes you can set it from the top and it works, right? You can water the plants and they grow. Sometimes you can do everything you can and it doesn't. How much of that, though, do you kind of maybe even build in recruiting when you are talking to kids and going, I feel like this guy gets it, and that we're not going to have to, deal with him getting his feelings hurt too much or, going his own way?
There's 2 parts of being a great recruiter. One is being a talent evaluator. Some guys are really good at that. Some guys, I've seen us miss on some guys before, or I took a guy when a coach didn't think he could play, and he ended up being a great player for us. So talent evaluation. The other part that's so critical that you're touching upon is being an information gatherer, and finding out everything about the young man that you need to know, and sometimes how he fights through adversity or he doesn't fight through adversity, and what kind of work habits does he have? And most of the time, if you dig deep enough, you're going to find out what's going on. We want to find guys that are going to fit in with us, on the field, off the field, in the classroom. And if they got a weakness someplace, we'd really like to know about it ahead of time, and not take that guy. He's probably not going to work in our program. And I've done a lot of had a lot of conversations with NFL teams about this. I got a lot of former players, former coaches who are at that level, and they when they scout, they're very detailed. We want to be very detailed as well, because I really feel like when you bring a guy into your program, you want to develop that guy over a period of time, and not just reshuffle the deck like a lot of people are doing nowadays. So that's very, very important to find guys that are going to fit in your program.
We talked to you in Las Vegas at Big 12 Media Days, and I think I asked about just, impressions going into the Big 12, and, what that looked like on your end, having 3 games under your belt now. Just what are kind of your early impressions of the conference, and I guess what you've taken away from maybe what you've seen, who you played?
Very well coached. It's a little bigger and longer than what I've been used to in the American Athletic Conference, which is a great conference. But you got big guys on the offensive line, defensive line. Everybody plays a little bit of big boy football. They're going to run it at you. But very well coached and good teams. And, for us, I've told our guys, there's been some teams I've had where I've been able to roll the ball out, and maybe we didn't play as well as we were capable of playing. We were going to win. That's not going to be the case this year. We got to play well. We got to play well offense, defense, kicking game. We got to play complementary football. We got to play smart. There's a few games we didn't play smart as what we needed to, and a lot of that's coaching, and you got to have the right guys out there. And I think we're understanding that right now as a team, coaches, players, support staff, whatever it might be. We got to do a great job in all facets, of the game, and got to do a great job of preparation, for us to be able to go out there and win ball games.
You are off this week, and then next week is in a lot of ways, a reunion, a homecoming reunion for you because of your for being from the state of Kansas. I know your late father, was a part of the NAIA as the executive director. You're from Shawnee Mission. So and of course played at Pittsburgh State. What will that be like to play that game in your hometown?
Well,
in your home state, excuse me. I'm sorry.
It's actually going to be in Missouri. When you're from Kansas City, you're from Kansas, you're from Missouri.
Yeah, that's
true. That's the first question. Yeah. But, I'm getting a lot of people wanting tickets, obviously. I've been, they think I have unlimited tickets. I guess I do. I buy them all. I don't know. It's going to be a good experience. I've been to Arrowhead Stadium many times. It's where Kansas is having to play their games this year because of they're redoing their stadium right now. But it's just another game that we got to play, and they're all exciting. To go to different venues, and I'd played once at TCU Stadium in the Armed Forces Bowl when I was at Tulane, but I certainly had to play a game there when we were going against TCU. So it's neat to go into new venues and, see how they do things. And, so this will be fun as well, going up there to KC Mo and playing in Arrowhead Stadium against, Kansas.
All right. Since you have extensive experience in Texas and Kansas City, what is the best barbecue?
Barbecue.
Yeah.
I knew you were going to say that. Obviously I'm in Texas now, so I gotta say Texas. But something that was interesting when I was in college, I worked construction in the summer. Back in the days where everybody had a summer job. It's kind of unique now. But anyway, I worked at Arthur Bryant's.
Oh, there you go.
Kansas City, and I worked there for about 2 weeks. We put in all the windows. We took the windows out and put the windows in. I think they had 49 windows in the whole building. But we ate lunch and dinner every day there at Arthur Bryant's. So I've always kind of been an Arthur Bryant's guy.
Yeah, we visited that place, and it is
Been
special.
Oh yeah.
I'm talking about the one downtown now. The original.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah,
No,
yeah.
Yeah, we'd cover the Big 12 tournament. We would. Yeah.
I'm not going to an
Great place.
Arthur Bryant's in the mall.
Yeah, I know.
No, I'm going.
They got him at the airport, in the mall.
Yeah,
I go to that
absolutely.
one. That's the one I go to.
Yeah.
Coach, you've had success constantly throughout your career. Doesn't mean there aren't some bumps in the road. Did you ever at any time, have you ever at any time in your career questioned your plan or what you do as a coach?
No, I just think we've done it the right way. I was really fortunate. I had some great role models and mentors when I was playing and early in my career coaching. And, it's just kind of, I always tell this story. Years ago, Don James was at a clinic, and I was there, and he talked about having a plan. And, I always knew I wanted to be a head coach. This is when I was an assistant. And we've kind of, lived and died with the plan. And then the other part, too, and, in this day and age of the portal, NIL, all these other things, you can't lose sight of why you got into coaching. And I think some people are losing sight of that sometime. And if guys skip class, I still run them after practice and things like that. So I haven't given up yet. I still want these guys to get their degree. I want to help them with this transition from 18 to 22 years of age and, win games. You can do it all. You just got to be consistent day after day after day. That's what we attempt to do here. Are we perfect? No, but we try to do that every day.
By the way, happy for Rashawn Sanford and what he's now been able to do. We covered him in high school at Harker Heights, a phenomenal player, had the early injury. Man, can he help that run game, can he?
Yeah, he really can. He had a couple fumbles a few weeks ago, and he's one of those kids that's really important to him. And I had to tell him last week, get back to being the way you are, because he's got a ton of energy, and I think other players feed off it. And he had a great week of preparation last week, and he played great in the game.
Thank you, Coach. Appreciate you always. Appreciate your time, and good luck moving forward. Enjoy a little bit of a decompression this week, and then go get them in Kansas City. Thanks for your time.
I will, and I'll tell the Bells you said hi.
Hey,
right.
There we go. Yeah. Tell Sean. Yep, Sean and Brian and the company. They are a part of that. I saw a video of when Houston scored a touchdown. Sean Bell racing down the sideline at that time, liking, of course, what he saw with the play that was a huge play in that win against TCU. Of the top running teams in the country, we have our Big 12 North pod here in just a second. UCF is fourth in the country. The Big 12 has five of the top 21 teams, with UCF, K-State 7, West Virginia 13, Arizona State 16th, and Kansas is 21st. What really is stunning, and Colorado is moving up. Remember, they were dead last. Now they're still near the bottom. But Oklahoma State, they can't run the football. And Ollie Gordon back, they're 121st out of 131 or so in the country in rushing. It's shocking.
Not so much that Ollie Gordon is back. They have so much experience in the offensive line back, too.
But they're way down the list. TCU, Oklahoma State, Colorado from 117 up to 125. Thank you very much, Andrew Pate, helping set up our access with Willie Fritz, the head coach at Houston. When we come back, the Big 12 North Pod, and this is 365 Sports. Stonewood Dental in Robinson, Texas. My dentist, Dr. Steve Childress, who texted me the other day on an interview we had on the show, and just being nice about what we do. We appreciate that, and I always am nice about what he does because he helped me turn the corner when it comes to dental work that I had looking ahead and also preventing what other problems might be possible if I didn't get rid of some habits of too much sugar in my mouth, whether it's soft drinks and or the lozenges. I've told you that story before. Always did that, especially during football season, to kind of just soothe my throat. And eventually what I was doing was like bad for my teeth. So I've had, I've had root canals. I've had cavities fixed. I've had teeth pulled and all of that. And I've now turned the corner where it's calm and collective, but still some work to be done, especially on the front part where I have a bridge. Dr. Steve Childress sat me down and said, this is what you better do, or this is what's going to happen. And we still have things to do, even if you stop now. Dr. Steve Childress, my great dentist in Stonewood Dental in Robinson, Texas.
The Jeep Adventure Days closeout at Allen Samuels just got bigger and better than ever with $15,000 off a 2024 Jeep Grand Cherokee Overland Demo with a V8 Hemi. Or how about a 2023 Dodge Charger RT with $15,000 off? Or a Charger Scat Pack with $11,000 off. Ask about the hot deals on the 2024 Wagoneers and get 3.9% for 72 months. Only at Allen Samuels in Waco.
Come by. Let's be friends.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Petty Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide, affordable, highly effective. Google search Petty Clinic Waco and reach out to the Petty Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pettycliniclowt.com.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Thank you again to Houston and the access we have to Willie Fritz as they have the off week and they move into the off week with a win. Boy, that makes it even better. Sometimes you need an off week after a loss, and some teams have that too, because you need to kind of just try to figure things out. But here we go with our Big 12 North pod, and we start with Iowa State. The Cyclones bullied Baylor after a little bit of a surprising start, down 14-3, 14-9, block punt, and the rest is history. They ran for 200 and whatever they wanted amount of yards. Beck made the one mistake near the goal line. Iowa State right there, along with the others that we've mentioned, atop the Big 12, a half game back of Texas Tech.
Yeah, Iowa State, who'd you say first?
Iowa State.
Iowa
They're
State
playing
first.
West Virginia this week on the road.
Making sure I don't make the mistake again. Iowa State was very impressive to me when they kind of got a handle on the game last week. Baylor had a chance to kind of put them behind the 8 ball and didn't do it. And they took advantage of that, just like Houston had a chance the week before and didn't do it. They took the opportunity that the other team wasn't there and just put them away. And they're, when they threw an interception near the goal line, I was like, oh, this is a weird game. This is finally where the bubble pops. No, that was just a bump in the road. They overcame it. They're so well coached. Everything was fantastic, especially in that fourth quarter. And I'm impressed every single week by them, and West Virginia has their hands full for sure.
I mean, Iowa State's a good team. If you want to put them on top of the league right now, that's understandable. I think you can make a case for 3 or 4 teams to all have the number one power ranking or whatever you'd refer to. But I think I'd lean Iowa State as heavy as anybody, save for maybe BYU, just because BYU's played a really good schedule, and I think that just their home field advantage is such a great factor. But it is, and as we saw with the whiteout on Saturday, one for Iowa State as well. They have a great home crowd that was rabid, and just needed them to get past that slow start to really create more problems for Baylor, which that game ended up being a big problem. Went from valiant comeback attempt or a valiant upset attempt to a blowout by the end of it, a game that didn't feel like it was ever all that close. And that's, I've seen people like, everybody expected Baylor to lose to Iowa State? Why is everybody reacting so harsh? It's like, well, because it went from a close game to a 3-touchdown blowout by the end of it. So it leaves a bad taste in your mouth that you weren't even competitive after all of that. Iowa State's probably just that much better than them. I don't know how much better they are than everybody else, but I think they're really good. I think they have a chance to flirt with that first ever 10-win season. I think they're a great bet to place right now to win the Big 12. And I just think they have to be really careful going into Morgantown, because West Virginia is coming off that win and does have a little bit of confidence. And, they got some talent, and it's the Big 12, so nobody's that much better than really anybody on any given week, and especially on the road. So you won't have that massive whiteout crowd and all of that. I think it's treacherous territory, a little minefield to walk. I think they can do it successfully, but yeah, you need to be on your P's and Q's walking into Morgantown with West Virginia, have a little bit of confidence. I'd still take Iowa State to win this game, but I like where they are. There's a lot to like, and the fact that they've been able to beat Iowa and then to take care of the rest of their games with all the injuries that they've dealt with at times, at linebacker, on the O-line, and having a lack of a run game, really, for the most part, I think is just all very encouraging. So to see Jalen Jackson have a big game is a big deal last week. If you get Sama up and running with those great receivers, there's a lot to like about Iowa State. There is. And so they're in a good spot. But, yeah, you got to be careful walking into Morgantown on a Saturday night as well, should add. So that adds a little element to it on top of just playing on the road.
Their opening drive of the game, which I just went back and I was watching this, and they went 13 plays, 59 yards, and took 6 minutes off the clock to start the game. But then on 4th and 1, Sama the third was dropped for a loss.
They had 3 drives the entire day that did not end up in scores.
Exactly.
It was the 4th and short that they got stopped. It was the interception on, like, the 5-yard line right before halftime. They were going to score again.
Yep.
And then it was kneeling out the clock.
Yep.
So one was an interception where they were going to score, at least a field goal, probably a touchdown, running out the clock. So there was the 4th down stop was really the big stop of the offense.
59-yard drive, 6 minutes. This is what they do. They don't change their colors when they get themselves down 14-3, which teams can panic. 7 plays ended up in a field goal. 8 plays ended up in a field goal. 5 plays, 84 yards. This is what they do. 6 plays, 75 yards. 13 plays, 80 yards. They just eventually, they just keep hitting you. And it kind of reminds me of a lot when Utah's rolling the way they can play, that they have that they don't blink, they don't panic, and they ended up coasting, as Craig mentioned, and on the road now in Morgantown against West Virginia. Now, also from the north, as we do our pod with K-State hey, man, I can't wait to watch this game late Saturday night, ESPN against Colorado, and a pretty good team right now on what the Buffaloes are doing.
Yeah, I like the way you're doing it. You probably should lead with the best teams get the first mentions, from each pod. So we start with them. And so I think, Iowa State deserving to start off. And then I say K-State, certainly the number 2 in that pod. And, I think this game in Colorado is just very intriguing. I don't quite know what to expect other than a lot of points to be scored. And I'm just curious on how that evens out on both sides of things. But K-State got shellacked by BYU. Like, we all saw that 3 weeks ago. That was a bad look. They turned around and got a really big win over Oklahoma State to make that feel a lot better. And, yes, Oklahoma State is reeling right now, but I think that was just a really great sign of where K-State was, that they took the BYU lesson with the young quarterback, went on, won their next contest, and now, had a little bit of a break and have been able to get geared up for this one here. Have a little while to prepare for the passing attack that I think is what your big concern is of Shedeur Sanders and company, because if you've got questions, I think you're probably wondering about the secondary in this game quite a bit. I feel like you think you're going to be able to score, although Colorado's defense, the way they're playing and being a heavy run game, like something's going to have to give there, and Avery Johnson's going to have to throw it around a little bit. Now, he looked good the last time we saw him. He had a much better performance than he did in Provo, which shakes most people, much less a young quarterback. So that was a big learning lesson. I think they, again, pivoted well off of that, got a win, got a break, and they're right there in the mix. I think that there's obviously some things that need to continue to get better, but they're about where I thought they would be. I just did not foresee them getting demolished by BYU a couple weeks ago. But beyond that, it's the ups and downs of having a young quarterback, but they're very, very talented, across the board.
Yeah, and each game that he plays, he seems to fix a little issue a little bit more and a little bit more. So I'd rather be playing them in the middle season, Kansas State, than I would be at the end of the season, because I feel like they're going to just keep getting better. But they're right there in the mix, and I still wouldn't be surprised to see them haul off and win the league. I still haven't backed off picking them to win it because I'm such a huge Avery Johnson fan. I think that, it's going to be – he's going to be better and better, and he's going to start making plays. And as they figure things out, especially in the passing game, they're going to be more lethal. Defensively, they're not quite as good as I thought they would be, but they're not like a turnstile or anything.
Right,
They're
not Oklahoma State.
Yeah, they can. Yeah, they can get stops, and I think that's the most important thing. So while they're not as scary on defense as maybe I would have predicted, this is fine.
West Virginia coming off 2 wins after those 2 out of 3 losing games to Penn State and then that just awful ending against Pittsburgh. They bounced back to beat KU and then went into Stillwater and put up a smoking of 38-14. And now they get to host Iowa State. And based on their 2 losses, they're unbeaten in the Big 12 because of the wins against KU, Oklahoma State, and if they can get Iowa State, then K-State. So their schedule right now, they're about to find out, have they kind of corrected themselves? The quarterback thing is kind of back and forth with what they're doing. And what a nice win it was in Stillwater. Morgantown will host Iowa State this week.
Yeah, I mean, the back and forth because Garrett Green's been banged up. So we'll see how good to go he is. But I think that you've got to be thrilled with the way the last couple of games have gone because those were really fork-in-the-road type of situations where you could go off on a tangent like Oklahoma State has, for example, but you've been able to get wins even though they've been, at least in the Kansas game, that was one that could have gone either way, very much so. Then last week you just kicked Oklahoma State's ass. I mean, you did. You ran all over them. That was great to see just how dominant you were on the ground and how involved, the offense was in that victory. So, I don't know what the kind of feeling is around Garrett Green, but Nico Marchiol, obviously a very highly recruited player, so we've gotten to see a little bit of him. But I would think that, the confidence levels are high, although still some questions of is the shoe going to drop again or whatnot, probably for West Virginia fans. But those last couple of performances have been encouraging after starting off 1-2. So you're in the Big 12. Every week's a winnable game. Every week's a losable game. I think that's probably the case in most conferences, but I think it's especially the case here. It's like one play can make the difference in playing in Arlington or, not making a bowl game. As we're going to see with maybe Baylor with how close some of their games have been. But, yeah, very impressed with how they just ran all over Oklahoma State and Stillwater. So that's encouraging, and this will be a bloodbath, and you'd think a very physical game with Iowa State, so you hope that Morgantown gives you a little bit of an advantage playing at home.
Paul, yeah, go ahead.
They can be fun, and then they can be boring. West Virginia's dichotomous.
This is one of the best weeks of the games, though, as Greg mentioned earlier. There could be either separation or complete, absolute. My God, some teams get to sit back and watch it. Now, Kansas. I go to their schedule. They beat Lindenwood. And they have 5 consecutive losses. Now, some of them close, but the bottom line is they have 5 consecutive losses. West Virginia, TCU, Arizona State are all games that were a part of the Big 12. They have the off week, and then they will eventually, as even what we talked about with Willie Fritz, host in Kansas City, the Houston Cougars. And, hey, Houston's defense is playing well. They're running the ball well. This could be just a free fall for Lance Leipold and KU.
Yeah, they got to get right. They got to get right soon.
You know that after Houston, they have K-State, Iowa State, BYU, Colorado.
Yeah, they can lose one more game and make a bowl game. And, I mean, I think they're capable of doing it with some of the talent they have on the team, but they're just, everything's off kilter.
You are who your record says you are.
Yeah, everything's off kilter right now with them. Now, Jalen Daniels, I think, played his best game last week, and they still lost. So, again, this is a team that's just not hitting on all cylinders at once at any given time. They keep losing close games, and, I don't expect to see them be any better than 3-9 or 4-8 this year.
Yeah, I don't think they're making a bowl game at this point. It's just they'd have to go on such a run. It's possible, but I don't think that we've seen anything to lead you to believe that that'll be likely. So that's obviously very disappointing because on paper this was a very manageable schedule. Of course, that always changes, and somebody, BYU, for example, ends up a lot better than you thought when you were initially projecting it. So, yeah, schedule that looked manageable suddenly looks a lot tougher because of the way some teams have showed up. But I thought that, you had to be encouraged by Jalen Daniels, right? Like, I mean, as much as there's been a lot of conversation about him and just sort of, where he is in terms of being the player that we knew him to be and projected would be coming back, he's not been that guy for the most part, and I think you finally saw some signs of life there in that regard against Arizona State. So a game that I know I watched the majority of. I don't know how many people did otherwise, but it was a very tight, competitive game, and I think Kansas is good enough to play with anybody, but they're just not good enough to get over that hump. They just don't know how to win yet, and I don't know if they'll learn that, before the season's up. But 5 straight losses, I thought you could really throw in the towel, but they lost by 6 to Illinois, at Illinois. They lost by 3 to UNLV.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty good UNLV team. We didn't know they were going to be that good. 4 to West Virginia. TCU beat them by 11 in a game that was close for a large portion, and then you lost by 4 to Arizona State. So you've been in all of these games, and you're not that far off from flipping that record around, and I think that's the thing you hold on to. And then you also are very encouraged by the fact that Daniels looked a little bit better. So if you can get him going, that would go a long way. But the good news is it doesn't seem like you're quitting yet. Like the team's still in this thing, and they know they've been very close. So that gives you some hope that in the second half maybe they can flip it around and win some games. And having said that, it's going to be very tough because they've got K-State, Iowa State,
Yep.
BYU. I mean, it's going to be really tough for them.
And then who knows where Colorado is. I think that's the week prior. The week prior.
But Kansas
or the
needs
week
a bye.
of Thanksgiving. No.
Yeah, Colorado's on that schedule as well.
Yeah.
The only team that's like a layup you would think would be Houston or Baylor, but even then, Houston's not a layup.
But they are Houston or Baylor. Yeah, I mean, right now. Yeah, they are.
Besides that, it's great to have a bye week because they're kind of like some of these other teams of just like it's been a long 6 weeks to start the season.
Take a deep breath. Yeah, even if you're doing well, take a deep breath and try to, get a little healthy, get a little rest, get some treatment, etc. When we come back, Ricky Thompson, Baylor Radio, on the Bears and what is next for them as they take the week off. I did have a conversation with somebody within the football program. I'll try to share a little bit of that with the interview with Ricky Thompson. Also, Pat Smith, who does a great job covering with 3-man front, the SEC and more. And off the radar, top 5, Ross Dellinger after 5, and John McClain. This is 365 Sports. Doug Furch and Paul Thorpe do a great job with the Baylor Alumni Fan Engagement Department within the university. They help set up watch parties, make sure if you have one, they can help make sure others know about it, whether it's in whatever city you choose. Because as we get the data of who watches this show, it is everywhere. There's not a state where we don't have a lot of viewers. That's a compliment, and thank you. But if it's a big city, for example, Dallas or Fort Worth, obviously, or if it's in Salt Lake City where we have a huge contingent of you who watch 365 Sports, Washington, D.C., Chicago, L.A., certain part, Oklahoma City area. If you are having a watch party for a Baylor event and you need to get the word out, contact Doug Furch and or Paul Thorpe, and they will help you with that. And they also, the Baylor Alumni Fan Engagement Department, will have various type tailgating and more that they have at McLean Stadium. Baylor won't be there till the end of the month hosting Oklahoma State, but they do that. It's Baylor University and the Baylor Alumni Fan Engagement. Contact Doug Furch or Paul Thorpe.
Score big savings at the Kickoff to Savings event at Richard Carr Buick. A 2024 Car and Driver Magazine Editor's Choice, the all-new Buick Envista starts at only $23,990. Or make the winning drive in a 2024 Buick Encore GX SUV and save $4,000 for non-GM car owners. Or save $1,000 on 2024 Buick Envisions in stock. Qualified buyers get 0.9% financing and no payments for 90 days. Score your deal at the Kickoff to Savings event going on now at Richard Carr Buick.
At Richard Carr, we give you more.
Edward Jones Financial Advisors Josh Satterfield and John Maddox understand these are difficult and changing times we live in, but they know how important your financial investments are to you. So is your financial advisor staying in touch with you and helping you navigate today's financial climate? When you invest with Edward Jones Financial Advisors Josh Satterfield, John Maddox, and Sean Carter, they will provide their time and experience to help you reach your goals. And like coaching athletes, investing money is about time, patience, and encouragement. Josh Satterfield and Sean Carter on Wycon Road off Bagby, and John Maddox Athletics on Sapphire Boulevard in Hewitt. Proud sponsors of Midway Panthers football. Edward Jones, making sense of investing. Membership SIPC.
El Conquistador restaurants are a very proud sponsor of the Midway Panthers, have been owned and operated by the Gonzalez family since 1969. El Conquistador is recognized annually as a local favorite with their fast and friendly service. Dine in or order takeout and enjoy your favorite Tex-Mex items as well as several traditional menu items. Catering is also available with 3 locations to serve you: Waco, Belmead, and Hillsboro. The Gonzalez family thanks you in Waco and the surrounding area for your continued support of 55 years in business. Go Panthers!
Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student-athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student-athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student-athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund, BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow @GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student-athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations. Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. This segment is brought to you by Michelob Ultra. It's only worth it if you enjoy it. Containing only 95 calories and 2.6 carbs.
Ricky Thompson, Baylor Radio, former Baylor and NFL wide receiver with us, 365 Sports. Ricky, they have a bye week. They are right now. They basically any way they can make a mess they have, even when there are spurts of good. How important would you want a bye week this week, or would you want to get back out and play?
I'd want to play. I just think, particularly when you're on a skid like we are of 3 in a row, I think you need to play. It's a long 2 weeks. The only positive that could come out of it, in my view, is maybe get some guys healthy, spend a week, give these guys a couple of days off, see what that does to their mind, their health, take advantage of it. But just personally, as a player, I'd rather play.
Ricky, we were talking about it yesterday on the show, and from a lot of perspective, I think a lot of coaching could be done better, but I think the coaching has been pretty good. Are they just hitting the wall on talent right now compared to the people they're playing?
Man, it's hard to say, but that would be hard to argue against that. I just think that we've seen guys that have been against us make plays they needed to make to win. I think you've seen some adjustments defensively that we've made that has enabled us to stop some teams in the second half, with the exception of last week. And I thought Iowa State just crushed us with their offense going against our defense in the second half. Particularly, we couldn't stop anything. But I think it's some of all of that, Paul. I think there is a talent gap there, and this may be hard to measure, and it may be a sign of really what it was like last year, because I think we're better, and we're still 2-4, and it's not looking that good. And yet I think we're better than we were last year, talent wise. So maybe there's a gap there that we really didn't see, because one way or the other, it's players that make plays that win football games, and coaches can put you in a position to do it. And there's obviously some things coaching-wise that you could do better. There's some things that on the players' end we could do better. But, yeah, I think it's fairly obvious that there is some talent gap there.
How about this, that the talent's pretty even across the league, especially with no Oklahoma and Texas, but they don't have any of those dogs, those Corey Coleman guys. Those are the types we're missing. The coaching's, it's good occasions. You can pinpoint bad things. Basically, the execution, right, Ricky? Like, that's what it ultimately comes down to, is not having a blocked field goal return for a touchdown, or catching the wide-open touchdown pass as opposed to dropping it. Or it's just like there's little execution misses that seem to add up and really hurt this team at all the inopportune times.
Yeah, and you know what? Some of those are bigger than others, but just little things. And I think, bless Sawyer's heart, I think he's had to play a lot on his own. I don't mean on his own. I mean with the fact that we've had no running game. He's got guys around him that are playing, and I thought we did a pretty good job of protecting him. I don't think that the rush really hurt us Saturday, but absolutely no running game again. Sawyer's been the primary guy to run the ball too. But, decision-making, I thought the interception Sawyer threw in the end zone, and I know exactly what he was doing. He was trying to make a play. I know Monterey was open early if the ball was delivered a little earlier, but I think maybe he could have run for that first down. Sometimes it's just decision-making, and you've got to take what's there, get the first down, go to the next play. I know why he was trying that, because if you remember earlier in that quarter, on a fourth down, he rolls to the right and wide open, Ketron Jackson for a touchdown. So I understand what he was trying to do. The other thing, Craig, I think when you get into this point, you start pressing and you start trying to make plays that aren't there. And that's, again, what I'm saying. Sometimes you just have to take what's there. And it's so hard to do. And I'm just telling you, when you get in this cycle of losing football games, it is hard to get out of it.
Go ahead, Craig.
Segment brought to you by Richard Carr Motors, Baylor Bear Hotline. And we got Ricky Thompson here with us. And, Ricky, we got people from all over the Big 12 that listen, so I know we're going to focus mostly on Baylor, but I also wanted to while I was thinking about it, get your thoughts. What did you think of Iowa State? How good do you think they are in the big picture?
I was surprised. Not that I didn't think they were pretty good, but they were better than I thought. And I think with the way this crazy league is, I think they've got a shot. I really do. I think they've got a shot to win this thing. If they continue to get better like they are, I thought they really played well. They're really sound up front defensively. Small victories, and it's not a victory, but 21 points is the most they've allowed all season. That tells you something about that defense that Iowa State puts on the field, and I was really impressed. I don't think they have any absolute stars offensively, but they're very, very sound, made good plays, protected the ball, got it to his receivers that could make plays. To the number 12, little Jackson kid, they put in late in the game after we were tired, ate our lunch. He was really quick, had speed about him. We just couldn't get a handle on him at all. And I thought that was one of the differences in the ball game the second half, the way they ended up running the football. So I think they've got a shot. This league is so even, which really makes it a little more disappointing to me, in that just a sound, good football team, any of them have a shot to win this thing this year.
Ricky, do you mentioned how hard it is to get out of the funk. So when you don't catch the touchdown pass, when you don't, when you get the field goal blocked and all those things, is it just crushing their souls right now that they get in this here we go again thing, and it's a confidence problem more than anything?
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. And that's where it comes back. What I've mentioned before is when a play has to be made, somebody's got to make it. Somebody's got to get tough enough to make a play, make a tough catch, make a run, break a tackle, pick up a first down that maybe you didn't think you might pick up, and get things rolling, and then make stops on the other side of the football. I just think it still comes down to guys making plays. And I just think when you lack that confidence, it's even harder to do it. It may cause you to, on a deep ball, let up a step and the ball goes over you 6 inches, or you're running a route across the middle and you see a flash across the face, you let up, or a quarterback's not patient and delivers the ball late. Offensive lineman misses a block, or you miss a tackle. And I think, guys, we've got a combination of all that, I think. And that's what makes it really difficult. And I know I said earlier, I think we're better, and I do think we're better than we are last year, but it doesn't matter if you're not winning games.
Yeah, there at least are spurts of that get maybe a fan, if they're watching, maybe a little bit of their adrenaline, but then there's the block punt. Then there's the block field goal against Utah on the road. It just seems, when you're not any good, as far as your record, there are certain plays that seem like, and even though Baylor came back and scored on their opening drive to start the second half, the block punt, when I saw that, I was like, okay, there we go. Even though they came back and actually took the lead, it just seemed like they can't get out of their own way.
Yeah, and a block punt is a lot tougher. You mentioned that, and I do think that lingers. I think it's different when a team hits a big play and scores with their offense on the field. But an interception, a pick six, a block kick for a touchdown, a kickoff return for a touchdown, those are game changers, because those are areas where you're not dependent on points. You just want to make sound plays on those particular special teams plays. But when you score touchdowns, it's a killer. And that block punt couldn't have come at a worse time, because I thought at that point we'd really dominated the football game and we're in great shape. And you give up a touchdown like that, it's just so disheartening. And I think that was a game changer. Even though we came back in the second half and went ahead briefly, I just think those things linger when you've got a team that's not playing well and not winning football games and has a losing streak like we do. Those doubts creep in, and it's tough to overcome it. And I'll tell you, that's a tough place to play.
Yep.
We've been at Colorado, at Iowa State, packed houses, and generally, particularly at Colorado, I thought we played pretty well most all the football game, with the exception of one play toward the end that really cost us. But Iowa State late with that home crowd just took over. So I don't know. We've got to find something or somebody that's going to make that play. And I'll tell you what, going to Lubbock next week is not going to be easy. McGuire's got them playing. They're 5-1. I'm thankful it's a 3:00 kickoff and not 6:30 or 7. I think that does make a difference at night on the road.
I do know this, that Texas Tech, they don't like Baylor. Baylor's kind of been able to have their runs here in the last 10 or 15 years, and Tech has not. We know it's been a long drought for them, but boy, you do know that they're geeked up. That fan base, the stadium's gotten big and strong, a lot of people, so that'll be interesting to watch. Joey probably is hoping that Baylor continues to have one good half and one bad half, although they could win the game no matter what. To the team, as far as when they were down 21-0, 28-7 against BYU, a team that did not like or feel good with their coach would have probably lost that game 54-10. A team that didn't like their coach probably doesn't jump out to a nice lead against Iowa State. That's one thing to say it, but it does seem like they're still locked in. But if they lose another one, can you see this thing going off the rails as if it's not already?
Yeah, that's possible. It sure is. I mean, losing breeds a lot of bad stuff. It just does. And that comes with both attitudes, coaches, and players. And to your point, the BYU game, that could have very easily been 50-0. I mean, it looked like a 50-0 game. And for the fact that they had a chance to win that game on two different drives in the fourth quarter, they didn't do it, but they had the shot, and they got back in that game. Colorado obviously had every chance in the world to win that game on the road. You just wonder, does that stop? When does that end? When do you get to the point where maybe it's 4 or 5 losses in a row? then that's going to be a real test, guys, if we do that. So somewhere in there, and we've been saying this for 3 weeks, you've got to get a win, whether it may be Texas Tech, whether it's Oklahoma State the next week. You better win one of those. If not, you're 2-6, and then that's a problem.
Yeah, I don't know what the stat is, and I brought up the block punt. Ricky, thanks for your time as always and what you do to be a part of this, and also with Alliance Bank. But I if you get a punt blocked, I don't know what the exact number is, but I would bet it's catastrophic when it comes to wins and losses. Don't you think?
I do, because I think that's even different than a punt return for a touchdown. That's just something that shouldn't happen. I mean, it's hard to get to a punter, even if there's nobody blocking. It's hard to get there in time. If there's a good snap and a good punt, 3 steps gone, it's hard to get there, much less running through blockers. And that was a combination of a low snap. I think maybe it could have been caught and punted away, but you punt that ball away, you're up. You never know.
Yeah.
You may go down and create a turnover on the other end. So, and it takes a while to recover from that. I just think it does. So, those special teams plays like that, particularly block kicks for touchdown, the block field goal against Utah, we saw that. What a killer.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, of all things, you don't expect a field goal return for 6.
By the way, there was a story back in 2010. I'll say this while you're still with us. 90% of games in which a punt is blocked, the team that makes the block wins the game.
Well, I'm not all that surprised.
Yeah.
I didn't know it'd be quite that high, but it's not shocking at all.
That's from an article. That's from a while back. That's 15 years ago, but I don't think that trend probably changes. Ricky, thank you very much. Ricky Thompson, Baylor Radio sideline analyst with us on 365 Sports.
Yeah,
90% of the time.
I'm with him on the playmakers thing. I was trying to have this conversation with Grayson earlier, and I felt like I was banging my head against the wall because I don't think we were on the same wavelength of, like, I wasn't saying they had a talent disparity. I was saying they have no dogs. And, like, that was somehow just getting lost in translation, I guess. And I think Ricky pretty much said the same thing. Like, and it's not all on them. It's on those who recruited these guys. Like, that's still on Aranda's shoulders. So it's not trying to take away any blame from him. He constructed this team ultimately, but I do think the difference in losing the BYU game and losing the Colorado game is in the moments where you needed guys to make plays. Travis Hunter went and made a freaking play.
Yep.
Shador went and made a play. Your guys fell in the end zone. You know what I mean? Like that's where I think there's this inability to cross over for them, and that's the one at the top of the list because I think in some cases the coaching's been fine. You can question things here and there, but I think if you could change one thing that would change this season, it's not changing a coach. It's having another guy or two that could simply go make the play
Phil
that
Bennett
you need
said
them to
that
make.
to us yesterday, remember? When Phil Bennett said that he talked to a coach, had him watch the entire
That's
game?
what I was trying to explain in the podcast, and it was like not registering for whatever reason.
Well, I'll tell you, and Grayson's a recruiting guy, and so recruiting guys just see baseline numbers.
Right.
So
everybody's similar, yeah.
So, like, well, if this guy runs a 4.5 and this guy runs a 4.5, then they're the same. That's not true.
That one guy runs a 4.5, his team is 2-7. The other guy runs a 4.5, his team is 6-0, or whatever it might be. Yeah,
that one guy caught 3 interceptions. The other guy dropped 2 of them, and then
I mean, like
that kind of thing.
That's where I think I bet you're kind of banging your head against the wall. It's like
2 things that I've been told that will kill momentum more than anything in football. One of them is a block punt. It's just catastrophic. And also the other one is kicking the ball out of bounds after you scored. And they did that on Saturday, too, against Iowa State.
Yeah, the kick out of bounds came after the 15-yard penalty for the celebration.
Yeah,
so that was a double
they
whammy.
score. They lose 15 yards. Trigg, who does – and by the way, we haven't even gotten into the rat-a-tat-tat celebration. And then you also then kick it out of bounds. They started about the 50. When we come back, Pat Smith from 3-man front on the SEC getting juggled a little bit, plus the games this weekend, and college football in general. This is 365 Sports. And Don Shumador and Coffee Beans in the Town West Shopping Center off Valley Mills and Richland Drive in Waco. Josh and Cheyenne with a 48-foot walk-in humidor. And I was playing around at golf on Sunday at Ridgewood. Beautiful place. Appreciate Ben Erlinson from Edward Jones, one of our sponsors. and all the guys that were a part of that group. And I have my little like Pelican case with my cigars, and most of them were Rocky Patel, the Churchill Lane cigars, Connecticut. And he asked me if he could, hey, can I have one of your sticks? And I'm like, no, my golf clubs are mine. But he was wanting to smoke a cigar, and he did, and he was like, man, this is really good. And he knows where I get it at Don's Humidor and Coffee Beans. 48-foot walk-in humidor, Rocky Patel, Artur Fuente, Romeo and Julieta, Ashton, Macanudo, and Cohiba and Padron and more. Plus, they have coffee beans, fresh coffee beans. If you like their best flavor, the most popular flavor is a Cowboy. And they have pipes and more. And yes, Vita Dreams, a gummy that helps you fall asleep at night if you do toss and turn for whatever reason you get into that bad habit. Don Humidor and Coffee Beans in the Townwest Shopping Center between Valley Mills and Richland Drive in Waco.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old, and they come every 6 months, and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texans are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
Pioneer Steel and Pipe opened their doors in 1943, and they have never wavered with their focus on great product and customer service, relationships with a handshake, making sure you, the customer, is satisfied. Their new facility is now twice the size, allowing new inventory, higher quantities, and in a much more organized fashion. In addition to the long lengths in tubing, angles, channels, rods, and flat, Pioneer Steel and Pipe now offers several shorter, more convenient lengths of material already cut. Their 2,500 square foot showroom has over 1,000 new products in stock, new welding supplies, hardware, quickcrete, and do-it-yourself components for any project, whether you are a professional contractor or weekend warrior. The new facility is designed to make your loading experience faster and more efficient with easy drive lanes around the building and much more room to get your trailer loaded. Our location may have changed, but our values haven't, and our relationship with customers goes much farther than just business. Pioneer Steel and Pipe on Loop 340 and Highway 6 and just east of I-35 in Waco.
Some say a dog is a man's best friend. But I tell you what, boys, you better think again. 'Cause there ain't nothing better than some cows, pigs, and turkeys too. I love to cover them in sauce down at Rudy's Barbecue.
Bring all your friends to Rudy's for some tasty oak smoke barbecue.
Next in line.
This is 365 Sports, powered by SicEm365.com.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Pat Smith, our great friend from the monster of WJOX, of course, also the three-man front and more, joins us on 365 Sports. Pat, you have one job, and that job is to keep the elite of the SEC at the top and not allow everybody else to start messing up their karma.
My goodness, what a week it has been in the state of Alabama. First off, Auburn was falling off. Auburn was falling off the map. Everyone thought they would be 5-0 after the Oklahoma game. They were 2-3. Then they go to Georgia and lose. Never in a million years did we think after Alabama knocking off Georgia, Alabama was not going to miss a beat. Nick Saban's in retirement, no problem at all. And then Diego Pavia comes to Nashville and just uproots everything. So it's been a crazy last 72 hours in the state of Alabama.
I have heard a lot of things said about Kalen DeBoer, Pat. Vandy doesn't beat Alabama. Is it just the fact that, look, they could take a loss here or there to anybody, but is Vandy so spat upon by the Tide faithful that this one just stings so much?
Well, I think it stings so much because I think it was 1984, 1969, the last two times that it has technically happened. A couple of times in the record book, Alabama, because of NCAA issues, had to actually forfeit or vacate some games, and it kind of ticked some Alabama fans off because in the Vandy Media Guide years ago, they counted those as wins against Alabama. It's just something that Alabama fans just really not used to, but the biggest thing is just coming after that just incredible win against Georgia and, Jalen Milroe and everything that was going on, and Kalen DeBoer just had got that big signature win in Tuscaloosa. Then you go to Nashville and you never led against the doormat of the SEC. It was just weird. It was odd. But any football person is going to tell you, watching that game from start to finish, Vanderbilt just lined up and beat them. I mean, this was not some kind of a fluky situation like App State at Michigan. I mean, this was absolutely Vanderbilt knowing the keys to success and how they could move the ball and really frustrate Alabama. I mean, going into that game, Alabama had only given up 11 third down conversions. They were one of the top teams in America. On Saturday, Vanderbilt did 12 in one game. I mean, it was amazing what they were able to do. So that's why a lot of people this week are just kind of scratching their heads. They want to give Vandy credit, but it is just very odd to think that this program that had 28,000 people in the stadium and about 20 of them were Alabama fans, 20,000 Alabama fans, and they were unable to take care of business after being declared number one team in America. It was just beyond bizarre.
Yeah, that was definitely the top of the list, but the league wasn't done cooking in terms of, big upsets. Arkansas over Tennessee. Game was in Fayetteville, so there was that to this. And Arkansas looks like an improved team, nearly knocked off Oklahoma State, even though Oklahoma State doesn't appear that good. But regardless, point being, they look like they were getting better. And this has to really send that home, I think, for the Arkansas fan base. What do you think it does for Sam Pittman, and how surprised, if at all, were you by the result?
I was very surprised. I was shocked. Both not only what happened in Nashville, but what happened in Fayetteville, because, Alabama's got Tennessee coming up next week, the third Saturday in October. And, both of those teams losing on the same day, being a top 5 team, both of them, to unranked opponents. I got to see Arkansas down at Auburn. And, I was impressed what Arkansas was able to do and frustrate Auburn and walk out of there with a win. I think Sam Pittman has just done an incredible job. Listen, leaving SEC Media Days, I mean, he was squarely on the hot seat along with Billy Napier. It was going to be, okay, which one's going to be fired first? Well, obviously Billy Napier is still trending that way. But the things that obviously Sam Pittman has done in Fayetteville has given significant pause. And they've got a couple more bigger games on their schedule. I know they didn't take care of business against Texas A&M, but they played well in Dallas 2 weeks ago. So I think Pittman's going to be safe. But if you're an Arkansas fan, you got to like the fact that they were able to do what they did and shut down a Tennessee offense that has just been a juggernaut under Josh Heupel.
By the way, Clint Westwood, evening guys from Tokyo in the chat room. So konnichiwa to Clint Westwood. Good to have you with us. Yeah, that's awesome. Pat.
Worldwide.
So, you look at Where this weekend, you have Texas, Oklahoma. This is an opportunity for Oklahoma to step up. Maybe that save at the end of the game against Auburn gave them a spark, the new quarterback or more. Is Texas the only one right now? And that doesn't mean they don't have flaws that looks like they're just humming along or not.
I think Texas is right now. That you cannot debate the fact that Texas has been able to take care of business. But I also want to point out, as you guys know, because it's in your backyard, that Mississippi State is hands down the worst team in the Southeastern Conference. Yeah. And when you have a game like Mississippi State did against Texas, and what it was at late third quarter before I think Arch Manning was able to get the ball in the end zone, and then kind of put their will on Mississippi State for the rest of the game, and the score was not indicative of that game being a little bit closer than what it was. I think it just shows you the depth of this conference and how difficult it is, even when you're playing at home to an opponent that you should probably beat by 3 touchdowns. But Texas so far, by doing what they did at Michigan, they have been consistent. Obviously, with yours going down and Arch Manning stepping up, Isaiah Bond, the transfer from Alabama, he's had a good season so far. It's pretty amazing what they've been able to do with the running game, that they had all those injuries in fall camp, but they're still dominating and they're still winning games. I think this will be a very interesting test. I don't need to tell you guys, it seems like something weird always happens between that rivalry. Look at what happened in last year's game. But Oklahoma, their defense, as they proved against Tennessee, and what I saw in person against the Auburn Tigers a couple weeks ago, I will have to tell you that this Oklahoma, I think they can make this a game. And with the change at quarterback, they had 5 wide receivers out against Auburn. 5. Their top 5 wide receivers. And they were able to muscle up enough offense and defensively be able to stop Auburn. I think this is going to be a heck of a game. But a long answer to your question, I definitely think Texas right now is number 1 in the SEC.
Pat, where does Oklahoma, Texas register kind of on the SEC radar this first year? Is it something that people are kind of excited about? Does it feel like an SEC game? And just in this early stretch, early stretch for the halfway point, what's it been like to kind of have that Texas-Oklahoma interaction in addition to, the same old, same old?
It's been fantastic. And listen, we spent a lot of time today talking on our show in regards to this rivalry and what it means in the Cotton Bowl and what it could possibly mean for Texas moving forward in the college football playoff. Listen, the SEC has absolutely opened their arms, wrapped their arms completely around both programs. They're tickled to death to have both of them in. The fandom is happy to have them in. That game with Georgia at Texas coming up in a couple weeks, that's going to be another huge one. We had that in Tuscaloosa last year with Texas. And with Oklahoma coming down to Auburn, and Bama's got to go to Oklahoma to Norman before they play in the Iron Bowl in November. So I think all these different fan bases are really going to, get themselves brought in together with these two programs and kind of initiate them into the SEC in a grand fashion. But everyone is pretty pumped up about both programs. They really are.
Pat, how realistic is this statement? Texas A&M, CFP contender.
Wow. Never would have thought that we would have been in this situation, especially after losing at home to Notre Dame and having the quarterback question marks that A&M had, that they would be sitting on top of the SEC standings right now. Their schedule obviously is manageable. That just sets up for an incredible game at the end of the year against Texas potentially. I'm not ready to say that I'm bought in on the Aggies as being a CFP contender. There's a lot of other teams that I think is going to be jockeying for position. I think they did show that Mizzou is a fraud, that's not going to be a team. You got to wonder if Ole Miss can get past LSU this week. Did they right the ship after that upset loss at home against Kentucky? Bama has got Tennessee coming up. They got a trip to LSU, obviously Norman, Oklahoma, and the Iron Bowl. So, there's a lot of pitfalls left for a lot of teams. I think it's a lot more manageable for Texas A&M, but I just think that from a talent standpoint, I think there's a few more teams that's going to be in that conversation for the CFP over Texas A&M.
Pat, what are your thoughts? We have Ross Dellinger in about a half hour, a little bit less than that on this. These other private equity, other leagues that are at least are ideas as the Big Ten and the SEC meet Thursday, barreling down this road of, hey, we're who we are and you're not. Do you think there's anything at all to any of these type of ideas or options that would change Greg Sankey's mind to win the entire world of college football?
No, I don't. And being around Greg Sankey, been around this conference as long as I have been, I mean, what's happening in Nashville is you've got the Big Ten and the SEC. I mean, they're absolutely going to flex. And maybe Ross is going to tell you something different in 30 minutes, but I fully anticipate that these two are going to put their head together. They both want 4 automatic bids moving forward in the college football playoff. They want to expand this thing to 14, maybe 16 teams, depending on what they can get approved. I know I read Brett Yormark's comments over the weekend in Houston, in the Houston Chronicle, in regards to, let's just settle this all on the field and earn your way, not getting these automatic bids and so forth. But to be completely honest, I mean, what is going on with the SEC and the Big Ten? They feel like because of the power that they bring to the table in regards to viewership and TVs and the money generated, that they should get more automatic bids. So I think they're going to get together. I think they're going to put together a plan. And now that the House settlement has been obviously okayed by the judge, I think moving forward, these two conferences are going to continue to try to dictate the terms away from the other Power 4 teams and obviously also the Group of 5 or what's left of the Group of 5 moving forward.
Thank you, buddy. Great to have you on. Sorry we're running a little bit late. Glad we had you and love the segment with you. You have one job. Get all those elite teams back to the No, I want chaos. I want other chaos. I want to see it happen. It was fun to watch. Thanks for your time, buddy.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you. That's Pat Smith. He covers the heck out of the SEC. WJOX, a monster station in Birmingham, plus, of course, a part of Three-Man Front. With us on 365 Sports. When we come back, Craig Smoak off the radar. Ross Dellinger on a lot of what we just mentioned about these other options people are trying to come up with, people with money to try to change a little bit of that momentum headed down that SEC Big Ten road. I don't think that will ever stop them. In fact, Pat just said he doesn't see how it will either. But when we come back, Craig Smoak off the radar. This is 365 Sports. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it. The other day, it was Friday, in fact, after the game with Shoemaker. Did a high school game here locally. And on my way home, and they have good food in the press box, but I was starving. And I don't even know why, because I had something to eat before the kickoff or pregame started at 7. But I was starving. So I called Marco's Pizza. And I said, this is what I want, da-da-da-da-da. And I couldn't do it online because I was driving. And they brought me a pizza. I didn't eat but 2 or 3 pieces, but that's what I was craving was pizza. And they have a location that will get to my condo pretty quickly, and they did a great job. But it was pretty simple this time. Chicken and Italian sausage and pepperoni. It was 3 things. Thin crust. I love it. And they did a great job, and I appreciate that. The delivery came very quickly, which even made it better. Marco's Pizza, fastest growing pizza brand in America. Marco's Pizza online at marcos.com with different specials, codes, etc. for you to get a discount to have it delivered and you pick it up on your way home or wherever you might be. 5 locations in Waco, fastest growing pizza brand in America. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it at marcos.com.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at alliancebanktexas.com. Member FDIC an equal housing lender.
Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Colgan Ford. It's that time of year, it's football season. Bird Colgan Ford is a proud supporter of the best high school football right here in Central Texas. BK Ford is proud to sell the #1 selling truck in Texas, the F-Series truck, 47 years in a row. Come see the largest showroom in Texas and experience better at Bird Colgan Ford.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine now has 2 locations to serve you. The original on Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street and the brand new spot in downtown Waco at 600 Franklin Avenue. If you're looking for the best in craft beers or local Texas bourbons, then the original is the place to be. And for the latest trends and online phenomenons, head downtown to the Franklin location. Either way, you're going to get the same great variety, customer service, and speedy experience. Check out both locations on their Facebook and Instagram pages. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street, and now downtown on Franklin Avenue.
This is Craig Smoak's Off the Radar, presented by Alliance Bank. They take pride in making banking easy. AllianceBankTexas.com.
By the way, if you haven't yet, we appreciate you. We really do, even those of you who I like to fight with on occasion. No, we love you. We really do. Right, Paul?
Yes.
We do.
Except for Paxton, just like him.
Except for Paxton?
I just like him.
No, okay.
I mean, like, you know.
Boy, you just lost half the damn chat when you said that. I mean,
no,
like there are some people who have been a part of this from day one. We appreciate everybody. We don't always agree, and that's a good thing. So hit the like and subscribe buttons if you haven't. We would appreciate that. Craig?
All right, welcome into Off the Radar. That was a quick commercial break, I felt like. My goodness.
Wow. I thought you.
Sorry.
No, it was. Garrett kind of like winked at me when you went into the next room.
Well, when nature calls. So here we are, and thank you for awaiting my return. And let's go ahead and get some notes from around the sports world that don't have necessarily much to do with what we've already been discussing here, although we do dabble in college football a little bit during this segment. But let's start off, in fact, with a college football note because this just came down. But Baylor football, despite the amount of questions about the future, is still landing commits apparently because Austin Westlake tight end Brody Wilhelm has just committed to Baylor, had offers from Texas State. Oh, that's the way people will spin this.
In a heartbeat.
Navy, Old Dominion as well, but according to 247, 6'5", 215-pound tight end, class of 25 from Austin Westlake, 3-star, has committed to Baylor. So there you go. There's just a little random recruiting note that popped up as we were going into the commercial break, and that is interesting. Like, how do you balance all of that if you're a staff that's very much in a weird spot right now, but you've got to keep recruiting because for all you know, still your job.
Let's say they somehow, the rest of the schedule, I'm not saying it gets easier because it's not, based on just who Baylor is, but when I've talked to a couple of people on the staff, you got to go every day and just keep doing what you're supposed to do. Yeah. I mean, you surely know that the bottom line is the win-loss column, but you got to keep on recruiting. And it's a pretty good class, one of their best. And we hear that, well, you can't make a move because they'd lose that class. The next coach is going to get his class, whoever the fit is, if there is a next coach. You just got to keep banging that drum.
Yeah, so just interesting of note there in the midst of all this talk, big picture talk, a new commit for the class of 2025. So there you go. And congratulations to that young man on a big decision about where he's going to play his college football. Meanwhile, there is one college football game tonight. Florida International at Liberty, 6 o'clock kickoff on CBS Sports Network. Liberty, pretty heavy favorites here, guys, like 16.5-point favorites over FIU. Liberty's 4-0. FIU is 2-3, and Liberty did have that Appalachian State game, but that got canceled. So one of the actual quality opponents they have on the schedule, not even going to be made up, it looks like, although I read an article where Ian McCall was trying to find like an extra game to play or something, but it's not going to be the quality of an Appalachian State. And I only care about this game because it's just one opportunity for them to potentially get beat, but it's not likely to happen tonight. But if you need your college football fix, FIU and Liberty tonight on CBS Sports Network. I think we all know Liberty's not going to get the whole undefeated benefit of the doubt, and nor should they. But I'm interested to see if somebody can knock them off. Probably, though, not going to be this evening.
I'm very torn on Liberty because you guys know I love Jamie Chadwell, and I think he's a great coach, and I think he deserves a shot at the big time. So I want good things for him personally, but I don't care for Liberty scheduling. I don't care for Liberty as an institution because of the Falwells, and I'm not like rooting against them, but I'm torn.
Yeah, no, I think that they kind of proved their point. They got to the big bowl game with the way that they scheduled, but at some point, don't you pivot and you start to play better teams? And so this is a year where they're not playing anybody really of substance. Now, that App State game got canceled. They got Sam Houston at the end of the year. Maybe there's somebody in between that gives them a run, but if they end up undefeated, I just don't know how you could take it seriously is what my point is. But they should remain undefeated later on tonight against FIU. So there is that on the schedule. Also on the schedule this evening, you got the Major League Baseball playoffs ongoing right now, and those have been a lot of fun, and they're ongoing right now, as a matter of fact, as well, with the game currently in progress. But man alive, been a very entertaining slate so far. And yesterday, you had the Tigers with a 3-0 win over the Guardians. So they tie that series up at 1-1. And then Kansas City also evened things up with the Yankees with a 4-2 win. So that series tied at 1-1, both the American League series. So tonight, you start to pivot back towards the National League. And right now, Philadelphia at the Mets. That series is tied 1-1. This is a Game 3. And last I checked, there was, New York up 1-0 at home right now in that one, hoping to get, I didn't even pay attention to TV.
Right there in front of us. I just now realized it, yeah.
Yeah, that's right there. Didn't even notice that.
Polar Bear hit a home run.
Who?
Polar Bear.
That's the guy that hit, he hit another opposite field home run. He's good at
So Mets are up 1-0 thanks to the Pete Alonso home run. Later on tonight, what's been a fiery series so far out in California, the Padres will play host to the Dodgers. That's a Game 3. That series is tied at 1 apiece, and that will be start time of just after 8 o'clock first pitch. That is also on FS1, like this current Phillies-Mets game is as well. There'll be a full slate tomorrow. All 4 of the series will take place tomorrow in Game 3s and 4s respectively. But any just big picture thoughts on what you've seen, because we don't have any dog in the fight, so to speak, here, but it's been some entertaining baseball. Like that LA-San Diego series is getting wild. Any thoughts on just where we are with the postseason right now?
I'm really excited to see if the Royals can do it against the Yankees. I mean, they've kind of come out of nowhere. Bobby Witt Jr. is absolutely fantastic. All of it, one of the cool things about this is all the guys who had great, all the MVP candidates are all in the playoffs. So Aaron Judge and Ohtani and Soto and Witt and Harper, they're all exactly. They're all there in the playoffs. The Padres and Dodgers, I'm here for it. Keep getting chippier. I hope the Mets and Phillies keep getting chippier. That's New York and Philly. That's that's Queens. That's 2 great ballparks, 2 great baseball atmospheres. Yeah, so I want them all to go the distance. Just keep playing ball as long as you can.
Are you watching any of it whatsoever? No. Okay.
No. No, I know that the San Diego and the Dodgers are in kind of a little bit of a – there's a lot of chippiness, as you mentioned. The Jurickson Profar, what a play by him. And he's he's turned into a pretty good player. But I know there's some bad blood. I've watched some of the games. I haven't gotten fully entrenched until they get to about games 4 and 5 or so, see who survives. I really don't care with now Houston gone who wins. I have my favorites, but that allows me to kind of just watch the series, all of them, as they go on.
Well, plenty of baseball going on today, including right now, and then obviously a full slate, as I mentioned, tomorrow. So plenty of baseball to go around for these next few weeks. I guess for about 4 more weeks, right? Or when is the World Series?
Not in October.
A month?
End of October.
It's in October. No, is it really? Yeah.
So, yeah, we're getting down to the nitty-gritty, but there's still a lot of baseball to be played, and yet not that much baseball to be played is kind of what I'm getting at. So enjoy it while you can, even though it is very much football season.
The World Series is October 25th through November 2nd.
So 3 weeks away. Meanwhile, over in the pro football ranks, the coaching carousel has gotten underway, fellas.
Woo, it did.
As the New York Jets have fired Robert Saleh. After a 2-3 start, they have named Jeff Ulbricht, their defensive coordinator, as the interim head coach. It is the first in-season, according to Rich Cimini of ESPN, the first in-season coaching change under Woody Johnson in his 25 years as the owner of the ball club, and it was ultimately his decision, and made it clear that it was his decision, even though he consulted with GM Joe Douglas, saying, "Is my decision and mine alone." So they apparently told Saleh, Woody Johnson, along with his brother Christopher, the vice chairman, they told Saleh earlier today at Jets facilities, and apparently he was completely blindsided by this. Even though Twitter would have told you, thanks to Aaron Rodgers clips and the sideline interaction a couple weeks ago, that this was all already underway. But Aaron Rodgers obviously makes this a little bit more interesting, and you look back on things like their sideline interactions, you're like, was this kind of already down the road a little bit? But regardless, big coaching change. That'll be a big job to fill in New York, but the Jets now going away from Robert Saleh.
Yeah, this is drama that was just headed down a collision course.
And
Aaron Rodgers.
That's what he is now, though.
What?
He's not drama. He's drama. He's not.
You're talking about Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, that's what he is. That's what
he's lost a couple of miles per hour on his fastball.
Yeah, he has. And I watched this is the first I've watched the Jets. I watched them on Sunday because they were the London game. The defense is ridiculously good. That's not the problem. The problem is the quarterback's not really who he used to be. And it's fairly obvious that he's not Aaron Rodgers that we knew anymore, but he's also the one that you can't get rid of in the middle of the season. So he's going to get his way. The other intriguing detail about this was it's been reported that Robert Saleh was thinking about replacing Nathaniel Hackett, who is Aaron Rodgers' personal offensive coordinator. And so when that happened, then Robert Saleh got fired, and Woody Johnson sided with Aaron Rodgers because he kind of has to in this situation. But the problem is not Robert Saleh and his defense. The problem is Aaron Rodgers and that offense.
Well, you created this situation when you brought him in. You basically said, like, this is going to be Aaron Rodgers' team from here on out. More that's going to be Robert Saleh's, and that was made very clear today. So the Jets will be looking for a head coach moving forward, although they do have their interim in place and will move forward that way for the time being. Meanwhile, another, I guess, significant note is the fact that Drake May is your new starting quarterback for the New England Patriots. The rookie out of North Carolina has been, according to Adam Schefter, named the new starter. He will take over for veteran Jacoby Brissett. The Patriots are 1-4, and they're getting ready to play a team that'll fly around on defense a little bit in the Houston Texans. So that is what awaits young Drake May, who obviously was a high draft pick. Patriots have had a revolving door of guys basically since Tom Brady left. And now let's see if the young gun out of Chapel Hill can be that guy for them. But, yeah, Drake May show now in New England.
Chapel Hill, not Texas, but Chapel Hill, North Carolina,
Which was most people would think of before they think of Chapel Hill,
well,
Texas.
Daniel watches our show. Daniel, just letting him know we're thinking about you, man. I went back to go look at Aaron Rodgers and where he was in passing. And all that being said, there are 4 Dolphins quarterbacks who have already taken snaps because of all the Tua going down. Man, that's 4 that have already taken snaps. Some people are fortunate. Yeah, Rodgers is ranked 15th in the league when it comes to a lot of the passing stats. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Craig.
So what are your thoughts on Drake May as a New England Patriots starting quarterback?
I don't think it's the best idea to roll him out against the Texans, whose defense is pretty good, and who get after the passer pretty well. But if it's time, it's time. I mean, Jacoby Brissett was always a placeholder. So I think their ideal thing was to get him through the whole year and see how they'd be. But, I mean, he's just been so blah, that, you might as well get Drake in and see what happens. So he's going to have to play teams like the Texans eventually. Might as well throw him into the fire right away.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So there's an interesting note there. Also, you had last night boring Monday Night Football. God, I'm tired of the Chiefs, man. I'm so tired of the Chiefs. I love Patrick Mahomes, love him, but it's just inevitable, and it's not even like a hatred thing or like a jealousy thing. It's just like I'm just bored by it. You know what I mean? It's kind of like after New England after a while. You're just like, it's not even like it appeals to me anymore. I'm just bored. Like Brady always wins, and that's kind of how I feel with the Chiefs, because no matter who's hurt, Patrick's going to find a way to win the game.
Well, they bring back Kareem Hunt and Juju Smith-Schuster, and it works out.
Yeah.
It works out because of one thing. Mahomes.
Yeah. Right.
Now, it's going to cause a lot of teams who are way dumber than the Chiefs to go see why it should work out. And the one I'm talking about lives in Dallas. Like, we bring back our guys all the time.
Yeah.
It should work. No. Mahomes makes it work.
Yeah, so last night, 26-13, Kansas City stays unbeaten, the big win over the New Orleans Saints. Just wanted to mention that in passing as well.
Every one of their wins up until last night was a one-score win. They win the tight games because
they always do.
that one extra player drive.
And some people will tell you, like, they get that call when they need it, and sometimes they do. And sometimes it's legitimate. Most times it is, but one note out of that game is Derek Carr, Saints quarterback, took a big hit and went down and grabbed his lower back, and he is going to be out multiple weeks with an oblique injury. Suffered in that loss to the Chiefs, so he had gotten off to a nice start, then gets hit, Dallas. And they get beat, and now he's out of there. So Jake Haener, who college football fans will know, took over, but the guy who you're now eyeing is Spencer Rattler down in New Orleans to possibly be the guy to start in Week 6 against the Buccaneers. So it might be Rattler time down in the Big Easy.
I think he'll be a better pro.
I do too.
Once he gets his feet on the ground, I just think that the way he plays the game, I think he'll be a better NFL player. At times he flashed that in college, but I think he'll be okay.
No,
Haener, by the way, Fresno State. Craig brought up to college.
There are guys, that fit that mold, and they're rare. But it works better for him being a pro. Like, where you don't have to. I mean, you have to love it, but you don't have to.
I don't think it's as much about athleticism sometimes. Like, I don't know, feel like I start saying that, and then I don't know if I can explain kind of what I'm trying to say well enough, but he just fits more of the pro-style quarterback mold to me than a college athlete running around a bit more, I guess.
And also, I do think that because of his nature, like, it's better that it's a completely transactional relationship in the pros than it is in college, where you're like, the fans in college some of them are your fellow students, right? Mm-hmm. You're playing with them, for them, all this stuff. Nobody that's cheering for you in the stands, for the Saints, is also a Saint.
Right.
Like, no one, like, the guy on the 10th row, you're not going to just see him at the facility on Monday. It's not that. So there's a little bit more of emotional distance, which for someone like Spencer Rattler, I think is better.
Well, let me tell you, the Saints had that win against Dallas on the road and scored a bucket load of points, and they have not done that since. That's why, no matter who we are, including Jaden Daniels, former Arizona State star quarterback, right, Garrett?
That's right.
How you excited? It's better. It's refreshing, but I'm not taking anything for granted. In the NFL, you never know how that flip can go the wrong way.
Yes, so final thing here, some TV ratings for college football. I'm not going to do this for most sports, and I don't know. I'm kind of overdoing it now for college football because it's become too much of what I was afraid of, which is tribal talk about the SEC has this many of the top 5 and the Big Ten has this, and it's just like, God bless America. Do we have to do that with every effing thing?
Yeah, you do.
So now, like, the reason why I was hesitant to do ratings to begin with had nothing to actually do with sports. It has to come from me being a pro wrestling fan and the fact that tribalism is absolutely insane. Like, you either love WWE or you like the other guys. There's no in between. There is an in between. I'm the in between. But then it gets into, like, ratings breakdowns of, like, you had 2 million and this show only had, and it becomes that kind of tribal, and it makes me want to pull my hair out. So I guess what awaits college football next is, because now more people are doing the TV ratings thing, pretty soon if it's going to follow the pro wrestling path, where you can't just enjoy a show, you've got to now know, like, who was watching and how many, and, like, you can't just be a fan. We're now going to probably start getting quarter-hour breakdowns on the audience and what play had the biggest audience as compared to this play in this game, because that's what it turned into in the wrestling community, and it drives me insane. So I kind of hate that I'm starting to see that now in college football.
UW fan Jim, no, Craig, I love this part of the segment.
Okay, well, I'll keep it because I don't go tribalistic with it, but I have seen that now. Just the ratings talk has become more of a thing, and we had somebody ask about it the other day. Now, these are the ratings from Austin Karp, and these include only the Nielsen-rated stations, so not everybody is a part of that, like the SEC network, for example, I don't believe is registered by Nielsen. So that wouldn't count when you're asking about, well, what about this game? So Tennessee-Arkansas on ABC led the week, 5.3 million viewers for the upset, Tennessee over Arkansas. And also you had Auburn and Georgia with $4.9 million. Second most, Iowa, Ohio State, $4.5 million. Michigan, Washington over on NBC, $4.4 million. And then rounding out the top five, Missouri, Texas A&M on ABC, $3.3 million. Two other games got above $2 million, and that was Michigan State and Oregon over on Fox, got $2.8 million. And UCLA, Penn State on Fox got $2.75 million. And this list that I came across, it's not posted in full anywhere else. This was, I guess, from somebody who's got the connections, so they've got like their top 8 or 9. So I don't know what the highest-ranked Big 12 game was. I haven't come across that. But Tennessee, Arkansas led the way. What about Vandy, Alabama? Well, it wasn't registered because it was on the SEC network. So
right,
that's why, if you have that question, that's why they're not included here. And I would imagine that would probably be pretty close in this realm of a couple million people. At least we're watching that bad boy, or at least turn to it later on. So, yeah, Tennessee, Arkansas takes home the day, but a lot of Big Ten, a lot of SEC. And then the one exception was that Miami-Cal game on ESPN, late night, $1.9 million. That was the highest non-Big Ten or SEC game on record that I've seen, at least. And that's the extent of the list. So on Thursday, I'll roll back around when we get some more numbers and be able to go a little bit more in depth with it. But there's a few things off the radar.
Let me tell you, coming up this week with Texas OU, Ohio State, Oregon, both playing at different times, and all the other, it could be fun. Colorado late-night game will be interesting with K-State. They were off, and as somebody in the chat said, that's a game that would have brought, just because, maybe a couple of million to 3 million or 4 million, but they were off, and they're back into play against K-State. All right, when we come back, Ross Dellinger, Yahoo Sports. This is 365 Sports. Pioneer Steel and Pipe opened their doors in 1943, and they have what you need when it comes to building buildings and stuff like, for example, real estate or commercial buildings for businesses and more. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with the pipe, steel, and metal. Pioneer Steel and Pipe can help you find the right contractor for the job you want to do. They know what the reputations are, because you can get some of those that just seem like everything is always going wrong or it's delayed. They're going to help you find the right contractor for the job that you have. If you want to build something, they have what you need. Brand new facility that opened up in December of 2022. Bigger, better, faster, and stronger. And they sell not to just customers that walk through the front door, but of generations of customers they've had since 1943. PioneerBoys.com.
When it comes to me and my money, I know the way it should be. I need a partner I can count on. That's Genco and me. Genco is my credit union. They're always there for me. They're people I trust. They treat me like family. My money, my future, my credit union. Genco.
Automatic Chef is your local vending, office coffee, and micro market provider, delivering outstanding service to break rooms all over Central Texas for over 50 years. Automatic Chef brings the best products to your location at the best prices. With hundreds of choices in fresh food, coffee, snacks, and drinks, let Automatic Chef tailor a break room solution to your needs. Make break time great again with Automatic Chef. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchef.com.
Bambi SQ, what is the number one reason or 2 or 3 reasons, Bambi, that people should contact House of Travel?
As a travel agency local here in Waco, we can take care of all your bookings, your payments, answer your questions, help you when there are issues or problems, things that may come up that you don't know what to do or how to fix them. People don't realize we don't charge a fee for what we do. It doesn't cost you extra to use a travel agent. We're just here. We get paid by the tour companies and the cruise lines to represent them. But you have an expert on your side that's here and local, and you have a name and a face to put together to help you with anything that you may need. Give us a call. We can price things for you. We can help you answer questions. We can make it simple, easy, and one stop.
Your knowledge of all the years you've done this and then spit it back to them or give them options?
It helps us to kind of know a date range, a budget, what your goals are and what you want to see and do on your vacation. And then that helps us to know what to look for, and we can narrow down and help you make the best choices for your vacation so you get the best value. You get exactly what you were hoping for, and making sure that it's taken care of with a carefree, easy, simple for you type vacation. I've been doing this for over 40 years. Every day I learn something new. I experience new situations and things that I can help take care of for people, whether it's just making sure you get the best deals and find the best vacations, or whether it's to solve that problem like you've got a flight that's being canceled and you don't know what to do. There's weather coming up. Should I cancel my trip next week because of the hurricane? Those are things that we take care of and you don't have to worry about. You've got somebody that you can rely on that you know is an expert, knows what we're doing, have been doing this for a long time, so that you're not questioning, okay, does the person on the other end of the phone really understand what I'm asking or know how to find those deals? You've got an expert, and we are here to take care of that.
For more information, go to houseoftravelwaco.com. Don's Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. Don's Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Want to send a message to the show? Jump in the Rudy's Country Store and Barbecue chat room.
I tell you what, he is all over so many of the changes, whether it's lawsuits and everything else in between with the changes and the way things are in college football. Ross Dellinger, Yahoo Sports, joins us on 365 Sports. Ross with Craig and David, Smoak and Paul Catalina. Ross, it was the latest story you had today. You've had so many of them. Do you, based on what you know, think that, and I had Pat Smith on and asked him with WJOX in Birmingham, we did, about no matter these options, do you think that the SEC and Sankey, Petiti and the Big Ten will go for any of it?
Unlikely. You know, they've been pretty public. Certainly Greg Sankey has, that he's against, and I wrote that, you know, in the story. It was pretty clear, like he's against a lot of this private equity, a lot of the concepts, models from outsiders, and so. But I think what you may see happen here eventually is the concepts in these models, in these proposals, in the money tied to these proposals, it's going to be kind of a pressure point for the leagues to change, to do some changing, whether that's revenue, different ways to generate revenue, or different ways to distribute revenue. You know, it's been talked about quite a bit with this SEC, around this SEC Big Ten meeting, but it's a scheduling arrangement, you know, between the two conferences to get more big matchups that will produce more revenue. So that's what it's all about. These proposals, like the Super League proposals, they give everyone, including administrators, an idea of the money that's being left kind of out there, that's available if they make some changes. And I think we're getting closer and closer to administrators making these changes because now they have to pay athletes, right, directly. And so there is kind of a chase more than ever for more money.
Ross, Brandon Marcello said this. I was curious your opinion on this, that this, you know, group coming to them and like giving them ideas is just going to give them the ideas on how they do all this, maybe without the private equity involved in it. If it's going to go to the Super League anyway, do you see them doing it on their own without getting all these other outside people involved?
Well, absolutely. And I think I wrote about that in that story. You know, I have a quote from an SEC athletic director basically saying, we don't need a middleman. You know, we don't need somebody else. And I think that's probably where we are. You know, we're in a spot where I think a lot of these concepts that are proposed by the Super League can be done not just between the two leagues, SEC and Big Ten, but can be done between maybe the four leagues, Big 12 and ACC as well. Can the 70 presidents, I had somebody in the Big 12 actually tell me this, can the 70 presidents come together, right, and do this themselves? And the answer is probably yes. Now, will there be this amount of money, $9 billion in this over 10, 12 years? Maybe not, because everybody's kind of tied to these media contracts right now. But there will still be new money if you come together, work with the networks on this.
Russ, the SEC and Big Ten meeting, obviously this is the kind of thing that perhaps gets discussed in the hallways or even in the actual meeting rooms. But what kind of, I guess, is on your forefront in terms of what you're anticipating on hearing? I know it's not going to be anything necessarily earth-shattering, but what's of interest to you from the fact that they're meeting? And do you feel like others out there should be, I guess, concerned that they're taking the lead, or should that be, celebrated in some ways that somebody's trying to get this thing on the right track?
I don't think many people are celebrating it outside of the SEC and Big Ten. I don't think there's a whole lot of celebration. I do think there's a little bit of anxiety and fear, right, in why they're meeting. And I mean, look, this is historic. It's pretty much unprecedented for two major conference athletic directors to both kind of get together and like this in person. So I think there's probably three main things on the agenda, and I wrote it in that story today. Number one is the college football playoff format in the automatic qualifiers per league. I think there's a push from the SEC and Big Ten, specifically the Big Ten, to have multiple automatic qualifiers for the Big Ten in the SEC. You remember they proposed that in the spring. I think I might have even been on the show talking about that. Is they proposed 4 AQs for each the Big Ten and SEC, 2 AQs for each the ACC and Big 12. So that was proposed already. I think there's probably interest in doing that, and I think that will be discussed. The second thing on the agenda item, I think, is, as I mentioned earlier, it's a scheduling line between the two leagues to get the blue bloods, get their big programs to play more often, to generate more eyeballs and more money. And then I think the third thing on the agenda is the House settlement case, which of course was approved yesterday, and it needs a lot more answers right now. I think it needs there's a lot of post-settlement questions right now. And I think one of those post-settlement questions is the enforcement arm. What happens with the enforcement arm in the NCAA governance, how that looks? I think that will be discussed as well.
You mentioned the enforcement and even the overall, the fact that the judge finally said, okay, Judge Wilkins said, okay, let's get it through this first hurdle. How shaky was that they wouldn't have been able to get that? Because I know she scolded them and sent them back to the corner to get things done.
Yeah, she did. She scolded them a little bit about the booster enforcement, right? Cutting out the boosters, cutting out third-party NIL. And they had to clarify language around that, and they did that. They, as in the plaintiffs, lawyers, and the defendants as well, the NCAA and power leagues, they clarified language. They took out the booster part. They basically weakened a little bit the tone of the enforcement entity. I don't know that it's really going to change going forward, but they weakened the language a little bit, and then that was enough for her, I guess, and she approved it. But the big question is how this is going to be structured, and it's expected to be structured where you have a clearinghouse that will clear all deals that boosters do with athletes, all NIL deals, and the clearinghouse will either approve those deals or not approve those deals. And that's what she had a problem with. And so they kind of weakened some of those language of what qualifies, who qualifies as a booster, basically what entities have to go through this clearinghouse. And that's what happened there. And I guess they did enough to get her approval.
Is there anybody outside of the Big Ten and the SEC, whether it's your Mark or Phillips, and he's got his own issues, that has the you-know-what's, Ross, to just like play poker with either one of these conferences, or do they just have to take it and shut up?
Well, look, as far as when it comes to the CFP format, there was an agreement made in the spring, that the SEC and Big Ten would have control over the format going forward outside of some guarantees. And the guarantees were each champion, you'd have five champions would get in. So you'd have 4 power conference champions and a best group of 5 would get in. And then you'd have some guarantees for Notre Dame. If they finish in the top 12, they're getting automatic at large, things like that. But outside of those guarantees, the SEC and Big Ten control the format. In the Big 12 and ACC and all the group of 5 went along with that and signed the CFP deal. So when it comes to CFP format, the ball is in the Big Ten and SEC's court. Now, when it comes to a lot of these other things, I think the Big Ten and SEC holds a lot of weight, but the Big 12 and the ACC certainly have enough big brands, especially basketball powers, that move the needle, that they can influence a lot of these other decisions, and they should.
So no matter how much it may seem that Greg Sankey wants to break completely away from all these people, he's not going to. I need assurance on this, Ross. He pulls some emperor moves sometimes, and it makes me nervous.
Yeah, he's certainly been fairly public lately with some comments, not so subtle comments, most of them directed at these super leagues. Until my story today, I don't know that people realized what his comments were directed at. Many probably thought they were directed at the College Sports Tomorrow 130 team Lynn Perna kind of model, but I think it's pretty clear they've been directed at the private equity-backed Smash Capital proposal, and he does not want to see outside entities come in. That said, I think there's a lot of concepts. Again, part of this proposal and part of these Super League proposals that the SEC and Big Ten, or the SEC, Big Ten, Big 12, and ACC can do themselves. And they're going to have to make that decision is it 2 of them or is it 4 of them? And what does this look like going forward? But we're clearly heading toward a space where FBS is going to look a lot different, in competition is going to look a lot different among the FBS schools, and that means probably Big Ten and SEC schools, specifically those big brands in those leagues, probably not playing as many of the Group of 5 schools, probably not playing as many FCS. You're going to see kind of a move away from that, and you're probably going to see them talking more together, whether it's the Power 4 or the Power 2, whatever you want to call it, talking more together and competing against each other more.
Ross, last thing, and by the way, the article is Yahoo Sports with Ross Dellinger. While SEC Big Ten leaders mull major changes, new Super League concept looms that could radically alter sports. And every question we've had, you've heard Ross respond by saying it's in the article. It's a great article. It's lengthy, very detailed, and also looking at every scenario. But I love the one quote in here when they were talking about this. We don't need a middleman, the SEC school athletic director. I'd like to go see if we can figure out something ourselves, which is what you brought up. In the NFL, everybody makes the same amount of money. Now, other franchises, the Cowboys and others, seem like they print more money outside of the television part of it, where everybody makes the same for parity. Why is that so difficult with the college football playoff? The Cowboys are the richest franchise, but they're not guaranteed a playoff setup. Nobody is unless they win the division or they're a wild card. Why is that so hard for college football to get that?
Well, I think that in this specific case, the Big Ten and SEC want to scale up in their regular season, right? They want to play bigger matchups in the regular season. And bigger matchups oftentimes mean you obviously play better opponents and you potentially lose more games, right? So I think in order to play bigger matchups and tougher teams, I think there's a desire from those in the Big Ten especially, but in the SEC as well, to gain more automatic qualifiers so that you have a little bit of a safety net of, okay, if we play these games and maybe lose these games and lose 3 or 4 games, we're still we're still guaranteed a certain amount of spots. So that's where it comes from. It's all connected. The scheduling and the CFP format, it's all kind of connected around this. We need to play bigger games. That way we can make more money and draw more eyeballs. And we need to be guaranteed that, if we lose 3 or 4 games, our third or second best team is going to still get in.
Yep. Ross, thank you, man. I know your phone blows up all the time. What you do is fantastic. We appreciate you when you give us time. Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, guys.
Thank you. Ross Dellinger, Yahoo Sports, with us on 365 Sports. I still go back to that, that you have to earn it. Now, the way things are going, that what the Big Ten and SEC are saying, that if you're among the top 2, 3, 4 teams in that conference, that means you've earned it. And I'm not disagreeing that the top 2, 3, or 4 teams in the SEC or the Big Ten are not among the top 12. But everything, and we've brought this up, no matter where football's going, no matter the revenue changes, is cyclical. Divisions in baseball, divisions in the NFL, conferences, it's cyclical. And I still think there has to be some measurement, and I don't know if they'll ever get to this point, where they truly are, you earn it with wins and losses, just not because of what your name is or what conference you happen to reside in.
It's cyclical, but those other things that you mentioned don't have it as lopsided as it is in college football now. Those two have all the advantages. They have every single one of them, and they're trying to get more and more and more to the point where there's just no comparison, because they've got this many tens of millions more to spend on players and this many, to do this or do that. They're simply just pricing out people at this point to compete for titles almost in a way, and not pricing out like in a predatory way. But when you see Sankey like demanding 4 playoff spots or whatever it is, it's like, yeah, this isn't for the health of the game. This is for the health of your conference, and that's what you're fighting for. And I get that, but I would just remind everybody, he doesn't care about the Big 12. He doesn't care about the damn ACC. If he can find anything from the parts of those conferences, he's going to go and grab them and sell them himself, or sell it under his own umbrella, like a Florida State or a Clemson or something like that. He can't say that all the time, but don't think for one second he's not already got plans in the works, just like he had with Texas and Oklahoma. So, yeah, those two are going to continue to do what's best for them and them alone, and then everybody else is just going to have to eat it and like it. That's basically what it feels like. And at some point, hopefully, a Brett Yormark can put his foot down in some circumstances, but
the only way that they're going to get any of these proposals through, Jack and I talked about this today on Triple Option, is to box those two conferences in, to where you kind of have to take away threaten to take away whatever you can give them that they need from you. But I don't know what that is.
Do they need anybody else but them at all?
I think that's the question everybody has is would that alienate enough people to where it's like, oh, shoot, we actually killed college football's fan base, or we've got all the biggest brands. We don't need the extra couple million that we get from Iowa State and Texas Tech and Boston College and whoever else that wouldn't be a part of our party. That's the question, and I don't think anybody really knows that. I'm sure they have plenty of people. There's some people that believe Sankey walks on water. But regardless of who the commissioner is, they feel the SEC is the best of the best, and you don't need all these others. If you just had the SEC schools, you could do just fine, make enough money, and college football wouldn't change all that much. And I think there's Big Ten fans that definitely feel that way. And I think you combine the two and you say, we got the top 25 biggest brands or whatever it is, besides Florida State and Clemson, and we're going to have mega games every single – no, I'm just telling you what the argument is.
No, I get it, but that doesn't mean you're the national champion because you decide to just go running high.
Well, it is if you crown yourself that.
Well, and the networks call you that, and I get that as well. Here's a note. Texas, how many Big 12 titles did they win from 2010 until last year?
I think it was 4, right?
No. Texas football from 2010 until 2000 last year.
Just one.
The one. And now they're running the SEC. Now, Sark's done an incredible job in changing everything that was wrong there. Not only just the great talent, they always had that, the culture and the way, and there's no entitlement. He's got it going. He's done a great job. They won one Big 12 title over 13 or 14 years, And now they're the best team in the SEC. Yes, they are better now than they were in the last 14 years. They won one Big 12 title, and now they're running what appears to be the possibility of the SEC.
We got to chill. I mean, like, I get what you're saying. They're not running Jack S just yet. Like, they're at the halfway point on the top of the standings. They got to, like, actually go out and win a title before we start talking about running things.
I'm looking at it right now.
Yes, and I am too. I'm saying, like, I get it. We're halfway point. I think we need to chill out on saying they're running things. But, yeah, they're doing really well right now. Let's see, once they played Georgia and Oklahoma and the rest of their schedule, Vanderbilt, and see what it looks like. But I also think one thing you're missing from that is Chris Del Conte wasn't AD for all those years. NIL wasn't a thing all of those years.
No, the timing's been great.
Yeah, the timing has worked out to where that's as much of the thing as anything else is they've had – a shift where all the things they can stand to benefit from, they can benefit from now that they have over everybody else, like unlimited money and, you know, every golden toilet that you can imagine, like anything and everything that to lure recruits and to be strong, they've got that at their disposal, and they can finally flex their muscle.
And a coach that knows how to handle the guys he's bringing in.
Yeah, I mean, they've got the right leadership.
Yeah, we need to break for John McClain, but I just thought that was interesting, and they may run it again this year. They're that good. And as you said, let the schedule play itself out. John McClain is coming up next. Waco Custom Marketplace, your hometown grocery store, 425 Lake Erie Drive in Waco. Perfect for anything you have when it comes to tailgating. I know that locally, Baylor's not at home until the end of the October. That might be a good thing when they host Oklahoma State. But if you have tailgating, you live in this area, you're going south to Austin, southeast to A&M or College Station, north up to Dallas. I don't know where it might be, but they have what you need when it comes to charcoal, pellet fuel, marinades, seasonings, tri-tip, brisket, wings, and sausage, and cold beer and wine. Waco Custom Marketplace, your hometown grocery store, your tailgating specialty store at 425 Lake Erie Drive in Waco.
Hi, I'm Dana Hassel, President and CEO of American Bank. Waco is a great place for business, and for more than 70 years, American Bank has been the bank for business. We continue to invest in our growing community with state-of-the-art branches conveniently located to serve you within minutes. Our experienced bankers, lenders, and decision makers work directly with business owners like you every day, providing tailored solutions, timely answers, and local insights face-to-face. Schedule a meeting with one of our bankers today and find out what makes American Bank the bank for your business. Member FDIC.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Ready to take your business to the next level? Carrion Solutions has got you covered. We deliver world-class IT consulting, including Quest On Demand and Migration Manager, M365 and Exchange migrations, Active Directory assessments, security hardening, and Windows Server upgrades. Our experts specialize in consulting, monitoring, support, and managed IT services. We promise vision, professionalism, and unbeatable value. Satisfaction guaranteed. If you're not happy, we make it right. Remember the name Carrion Solutions. For more info, email sales@carrionsolutions.com or visit carrionsolutions.com. That's CARRION solutions.com. Carrion Solutions IT success guaranteed.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
He is to humanity what bacon is to breakfast. He is allowed to use his cell phone on an airplane. He is Cesar Leal of Leal's Mexican Restaurant.
I don't always eat Mexican food, but when I do, I prefer Leal's.
Leal's Mexican Restaurant, 9000 Panther Drive in Woodway, 254-772-8140.
The This is 365 Sports, powered by SicEm365.com.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Brad Wilson. Investing is time and experience back to you and your money during today's changing times. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, here we go with the Hall of Famer himself and John McClain with Craig Smoak, Paul Catalina, David Smoak, 365 Sports. John, thank you very much for your time. If you were to put in the priorities 1 through 3 or 4 of why the Texans are who they are, how much credit does the ownership / management get? How much credit does the coach get? How much credit goes to C.J. Stroud?
No, the McNair family that owns the team, they spend a lot of money. They want to know what's going on, but they do not interfere when it comes to personnel. Nick Caserio, the GM, has done an outstanding job rebuilding the team in his 4th season. He has it in his contract. He has total control over all personnel. Now, when D'Amico Ryans wants a player, he tries to get him. If he wants a certain type of player at a position, like, say, the 2 defensive tackles are not just defensive tackles. Each of them has a strength that he wants in his system, so they go after him. And then D'Amico is in charge of all game day decisions, and he makes the calls on defense. Bobby Sloyd makes the calls on offense. And D'Amico Ryans was a really smart coach. If having played 10 years helps. But if they didn't have a quarterback, it doesn't matter how good you are. If you don't have a quarterback, you're in trouble. And they got lucky to get one last year, and they're got the second best record in the AFC, Kansas City. And they're going to New England to face rookie quarterback Drake May making his first start. So it starts at the top with ownership staying out of it, but providing the resources, and then a general manager working hand in hand with the head coach to get him the best possible players. And then the owners spend a lot of money on assistant coaches too. So they got it going on right now, even though they've yet to play their way they're capable for a full game. And it's weird. They've won by 2-6, 4, and 3 points. Last year, they won 7 games by 7 or fewer points, 6 of them in the last 36 seconds or overtime. And you'd think if you have a rookie quarterback, you wouldn't be able to do that. You'd come apart in close games like that. But it says a lot about Stroud. And the column I'm writing right now for tomorrow on HoustonTexans.com is when he makes a rare mistake like an interception or a fumble, he blows it off immediately and comes back and wins the game. And, what is in his makeup that allows him to do that?
John, first coachman fired, Robert Saleh in New York. They're 2-3, not because of the defense. Their offense isn't very good, and Aaron Rodgers and Nathaniel Hackett are at the center of that. But it's easier to get rid of the coach than it is the quarterback you traded a lot of assets for, isn't it?
The last coach to get fired this early was one you guys know very well, Matt Rule at Carolina. And look how that's worked out for Carolina. And I've read every story that I can by people that I think are reputable that cover that team. One said that Saleh wanted to fire Nathaniel Hackett, the worst offensive coordinator in the NFL, but he is really close friends with Rodgers. And the other one said, no, they weren't going to fire him. They were going to take away his play calling duties and give him to Todd Downing, who used to be the offensive coordinator and play caller with the Titans. And so Woody Harrelson, he'd do a better job of that team. Woody Johnson admitted he talked to Aaron Rodgers last night, but Saleh never came up. Now, give me a bleeping break. Does he expect anybody to believe that? There was another report that Rodgers and Saleh got into it after the post-game press conferences in London. Now, Woody Johnson was the ambassador to London, so he's embarrassed with all his friends in his suite. But the problem was not defense. Their defense has been great. Saleh's a defensive coordinator. The problem was the offense. Rodgers has been terrible. He was awful against the Vikings, 3 interceptions and a lot of bad passes. So what do? They keep Nathaniel Hackett and they fire Robert Saleh, promote Jeff Ulrich, the defensive coordinator. And I'm guessing just guessing that if they stumble against the Bills and lose on Monday night at MetLife Stadium, then they will make Todd Downing the play caller.
John, what are your thoughts on Sean Payton and the Broncos? Nice win over the Raiders. It was an ugly affair last year, but there's some good vibes there this time around. What are your thoughts?
Bo Nix was his quarterback that he wanted. Nix started 60 games in college. That helps a rookie quarterback compared to like Anthony Richardson started 13 at college, and he was not ready to start last year, and then he got hurt. Now he's not ready now. Well, Bo Nix, Caleb Williams, and Jaden Daniels have won more games through five games than any trio first-round quarterback since 1987. And that's why I'm eager to see Drake May, although he doesn't have any talent around him, and the other guys do. And plus, he's got a first-year coach, and we all know Sean Payton's a great coach, destined for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. So I think it's great for the Broncos and their fans. I'm sure they weren't expecting to be 3-2 at this point.
How long had that game Sunday night, which ended up being a classic, how long would the NFL have allowed that to occur with TV and everything else deep into the night before moving that game to another day this week?
As long as TV wanted to go. You know, everything is controlled by TV. They don't do something like that. They act like the NFL's in control. No, it's the TV people. If they said, look, let's resume it tomorrow, no, they would. That would have thrown off everything. They were going to get that game in no matter what.
John, the Cowboys had that thrilling game the other night. I guess it was thrilling late. And this could set them on a path. Do they look like a team that could be set on a path, or do they look like a team that just kind of won one game?
They won the game. Dak Prescott overcame the turnovers, and he threw the winning touchdown pass, and he should get credit for that. You know, the announcers were going crazy about Rico Dowdle, and one time I heard, I can't remember if it was Joe Buck or Aikman said, he's having a fantastic game, and I looked up and he had 63 yards. And I'm saying, is that how far the Cowboys have fallen? 63 yards is fantastic. Fact is, they did run the ball better. And I would guess they're still in the market before the trading deadline, first Tuesday of November, that they would still be in the market, look for a running back. Kareem Hunt came off the street in Kansas City, played one game, then had a 100-yard game. So there's backs out there if you can find them, coach them, and have the system for them. And so what this does, it keeps the Cowboys one game behind the Commanders, and they still get Washington. I'm not sold on Washington, David. Maybe you are, but it's early in the season. You know, we got to see more of them when they start going up against Pittsburgh and Philadelphia. Philadelphia, and Dallas, and all the experience they have. But it's a great story in the NFC East. It's a great story, period. Jaden Daniels be the MVP of the league and the offensive rookie of the league if it ended right now and everybody took a vote. I think it's great when the storied franchises do well, like Detroit. Now, Washington, the problem is I don't think we have the Commanders on another nationally televised game.
Yeah, it's hard not to get too excited, John, because it's like getting a cold bottle of water after walking in the desert for a few years, you know, but at the same time, you can't drink it all at once. You get sick. So it's been fun, but definitely very early still. I wanted to get some clarification from you. I know there's a lot of talk right now on the Chiefs and a nice win by them last night, but with Rashee Rice, the injury, and then perhaps a looming suspension, I've seen like some of the talk of like, well, he could serve a suspension while out on injury. Like, how does all that work, and how could it potentially work in regards to the NFL handling that whole situation?
That's not going to happen. You know, he's going to be all along. Everybody thought he'd be suspended next year. When somebody is accused of beating up a woman, the NFL does not wait to see how it plays out. They will go after him right now. But you see Rashee Rice, who put people's lives at danger, admitted it, was caught on camera, and people are like, my God, what else do you need? And they say, well, they want to let it play out. They can't drop the charges in Dallas because it's all on tape, no matter how much the Chiefs will help him pay for the best attorneys possible. So I fully expect him to be suspended next year, and I hope they wait till he's 100% and he was going to play, because he deserves to get suspended and lose money after what he did.
John, I hope that your wife is not listening to this segment after what you said about the Washington Commanders, because you would be given the silent treatment the rest of the night.
I think people that are Commanders fans have been bitten enough by that organization to know you got to keep your fingers crossed and you hope that it can continue, and maybe it will. But 5 days doesn't tell. The 5 games doesn't tell the tale. Right now, what you know is you got a great young quarterback like the Texans knew last year with C.J. Stroud. Dan Quinn's been to the Super Bowl as a head coach. Cliff Kingsbury will use this to get another head coaching job probably after next season. And so everything's looking up. And the fact that Dallas and Philadelphia are not as good as they have been in recent years, nobody's going to run away with that division unless it's the Commanders.
Hey, John, we appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, guys.
Sick'em. Yeah, that's John McClain,
Bears.
Hall of Fame columnist, with us on Tuesdays in the 5 o'clock hour. I know one thing, and I don't have the stats in front of me, but I would bet that of the last 100 times that the Cowboys were a little bit in that they're dangling from the cliff mode, and they are playing at least what appears to be a decent opponent, Pittsburgh, and it's a road game, that 9 out of the 10 times they win. There's something about it. I knew it. I told you, Paul.
Yeah.
And I was right.
Yeah.
Something it's weird. If that game would have been at home, they'd probably lose 27-14.
They fumbled on the goal line.
Yes.
Right before.
Oh,
and
my God. Yeah.
I was like, well, I was waiting. I was just going to text you. I was going to say, when you wake up, you'll see why I was right. I had it in there. And then.
I saw the play.
Yeah. I was like, when you wake up, you'll see that I was right. But then they actually pulled together and did something.
Yeah,
but
if they fumble there, Pittsburgh, I mean, of course, Dak, after throwing a couple of picks and then he saves them. And then the last play of the game, they do that, and they do it when it's on the road, when it's like up against the world. It seemed like they get that win, especially, they're on the road, it's Pittsburgh or whatever. I thought that Pittsburgh's offense sucked. They didn't run the ball that well. Maybe that's because Dallas was playing really well on defense. Yeah, no, and their quarterback situation, that's another thing. Cowboys play backup quarterbacks more than any team in the history of the NFL.
I actually think he's going to be the starter for the majority of the year. They were 3-1 or 4. I mean, they only lost the one game. Yeah. I don't know, but I think their problem isn't so much Justin Fields as it is Arthur Smith. But
I think that the NFL created a weather issue and headed to Pittsburgh to delay the game, to take the fans who were there ramped up out of the game. Now, all of this is part of what the NFL does to help the Cowboys. How much has it helped them in the last 27 years? None.
Yeah.
Not at all. All right, when we come back, Paul, Catalina, and, did you tell everybody yesterday where Dave Loverood was from?
No, I just said he was an Illinois fan.
Oh, okay. He's from Salem, Virginia. So Dave was, he sent me, I'd sent him, hey, where are you from? Next to Roanoke in Virginia. So Dave, who won the Texas Beef House gift card, thanks to Kim Coulter, TexasBeefHouse.com, from Salem, Virginia.
Roanoke has one of the strangest origin stories of a colonial town.
Really?
Yes.
You have time for it?
They had people settled it, and then some people went back to England, and when they came back, they were just gone.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Why were they gone?
Nobody knows.
Okay. All right.
There's something carved out of a tree. I can't remember what it was, but.
Okay. All right. When we come back, Paul Catalina and his top 5. This is 365 Sports.
It's time for Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Texas Beef House. Where's the best beef in Texas? Your house when you order from Texas Beef House. Unleash the flavor of Texas-raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
Welcome into the Tuesday edition of the Top 5. I'm Paul Catalina, and this is my Top 5. See, that's my name right there. It's spelled correctly and everything. Every single day. Brought to you by Texas Beef House. Use our promo code 365sports. Today, top 5 hard truths. Number 5, 7th-year quarterbacks are not a good idea. I'm looking at you, Utah and Oklahoma State, and anybody else with a 7th-year quarterback. But this is kind of the issue here. If they're good and healthy and should be playing football by the time they're 25 or 26 years old, most of the time, those people are professional football players in the National Football League, the UFL, or the Canadian Football League. If you have to bring back a guy for a 7th year, that is not necessarily good news. And I thought it would be with Cam Rising, and it might still be. But guess what? Cam Rising, in their first major test of the season against a conference foe, broke his finger just before halftime, and we've seen nary a peek of him since. So, 7th-year QBs, not necessarily a good idea. I'll just say aren't. I don't think you should bet on that. It stops development of quarterbacks, and you should be focusing on developing players. Number 4, Lincoln Riley needs to find his footing again. Yes, he's improved the defense, but somehow now the offense has suffered a little bit, and they're out of whack. He's got to find some balance. Do I think Lincoln Riley is in trouble right now? No, but I do think the Big Ten's been more of a rude awakening than he ever expected, especially after they lose to Minnesota and P.J. Fleck the other night. By the way, P.J. Fleck was as angry for 10 seconds as I've ever seen a person yelling at the official at the end of that game. But USC falling to Minnesota after they had this good start where everybody's kind of confident about them, got the win over LSU in Vegas. But since then, things have been really, really scattershot for the Trojans, and the defense playing well. The offense, surprisingly enough, even with a quarterback as good as Miller Moss, is just not quite there, which is shocking for Lincoln Riley. Maybe he's got to adjust some things because maybe his system has been figured out. Number 3, portal shopping is a bad episode of Let's Make a Deal. Look, for every Cam Ward out there, there's a DJU. There's probably 10 DJUs. There's a bunch of people who probably shouldn't be playing at this level or just aren't great. You should be supplementing. But when you start portal shopping, especially at the quarterback position, it is definitely a bad episode of Let's Make a Deal, where behind door number 1 is a Porsche, behind door number 3 is $50,000, and behind door number 2 is just an old horse. And that's what you get a lot of the time in the portal when it comes to QB shopping, when it comes to shopping at all. We've got to see more development of players from the high school level on up. There's been a bit of a decrease in that in the last couple of years because the portal is so convenient for some teams. But you're starting to see in the parity that's popping up, some of these teams are going up and down really fast because they went shopping almost exclusively at the portal, and that's no way to sustain success. Number 2, parity is here, and it will only grow. Vanderbilt beats Bama. Arkansas beats Tennessee. A&M beats Missouri. Top 10 teams are no longer as easily protected by their mystique anymore. Because of the portal, like I just said, and because of all the other things going on in college football, you've got an unregulated free agency system. And because of that, people are hopping around and you can't hoard talent. There's not as much depth at places, and you can get good players all over the place because they want to play right away and not wait. And because of that, you're going to see more losses like Alabama had to Vanderbilt and Tennessee had to Arkansas. Those things are coming more and more and more, and you need to adjust your vision on college football to make it more like you view the NFL. Losses are going to happen. Losses to teams you don't think you should lose to are going to happen. And peaks and valleys are going to happen a whole lot more. Because to be able to build a dynasty, you have to be able to hoard players for a long time. And that's just not happening all over the place in college football. Number 1, Greg Sankey is trying to leave the world in the dust. And guess what? It's working. When Vanderbilt beats Alabama, we have 3 top 10 teams lose, all in conference, all in the same week. That's actually good news for the SEC because it means that, guess what? They may really be the best conference top to bottom. If Vanderbilt can beat Alabama and Arkansas can beat Tennessee, and then it can all happen again in another week, as long as those losses don't pile up and you have a 3 or 4 loss champion, the SEC is going to be just fine. And with 16 teams in the league, that's unlikely to happen because nobody's playing the same schedule. So, Greg Sankey, well ahead of everybody. Last week I had him as Dr. Evil. This week I'm going with Montgomery Burns because I'm really feeling that that's the vibe that he's got more of right there with Montgomery Burns. Excellent. That's going to do it for this top 5. We say adios for the day right now.
All right, Paul, thank you very much. Texas Beef House has an auction Friday, Saturday this week. The sponsors of our college football pick'em and also the top 5. Garrett Ross, thank you for what you did today. And Emery Winter, who is dialing up 365 Sports tonight, which is tonight at 10:30, every weeknight at 10:30 on the CW. Thank you to those who watched us today on YouTube, 365 Sports, on Twitter, 365 Sports YT, and also listening or watching on Sikkim 365 app. Paul Catalina, I'm David Smoak. Thank you to Willie Fritz. Appreciate him dropping by among the others we had, including Ross Dellinger and others. Good night, 365 Sports.